Elijah Carter's phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. with a message that made his blood run cold. My office, now. Come alone. His CEO never summoned anyone this late unless heads were about to roll. The Meridian merger had collapsed spectacularly that afternoon, wiping out millions, and as lead financial analyst, Elijah knew he'd be the scapegoat. He'd spent 15 years building an untouchable reputation in a world that gave black men like him no margin for error. Now it was over. But when he stepped into Celeste Vaughn's executive suite, she didn't mention the merger at all. Instead, she said two words that shattered everything. I'm pregnant. If you're watching from Tokyo, Texas, or Toronto, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're already hooked, hit that like button now, because what happens next will change everything you think you know about power, love, and the price of protecting what matters most. The elevator climbed 43 floors in suffocating silence. Elijah Carter watched the numbers tick upward, each glowing digit another second closer to professional execution. His reflection stared back from the polished steel doors, 6'2" frame in a tailored navy suit that cost 2 weeks' salary, close-cropped hair showing the first threads of gray at 38, dark eyes that had learned long ago not to show fear. His phone felt like a grenade in his pocket. That text message. 3 words. No context. My office. Now. Celeste Vaughn didn't send casual texts. The CEO of Vaughn Industries didn't do anything casually. In 5 years of working under her glacial brilliance, Elijah had received exactly 7 direct messages from her, each one preceding a career-defining moment. Promotions. Acquisitions. The kind of high-stakes decisions that separated the survivors from the casualties. Tonight felt different. Tonight felt final. The Meridian merger had imploded at 3:47 p.m., taking $340 million in shareholder value with it. Elijah had been in the war room when it happened, watching grown executives turn pale as their golden deal disintegrated over a conference call. Regulatory issues, due diligence failures, a catastrophic miscalculation in the Asian market projections. His projections. Elijah had flagged concerns 3 weeks ago, sent detailed memos, requested additional time for verification. But Thomas Reeves, the silver-haired CFO with a corner office and a God complex, had steamrolled every objection. We don't pay you to be cautious, Carter. We pay you to make us money. Now the money was gone, and caution looked a lot like prophecy. The elevator chimed. 43rd floor. Executive territory. Where the air felt different, smelled like power and leather, and the kind of money that never worried about rent. Elijah had clawed his way up from the basement analytics department through middle management's bureaucratic jungle, past the subtle racism that dressed itself up as cultural fit concerns. Every promotion had been earned twice over, every achievement documented in triplicate, every victory a small war won in a conflict nobody wanted to acknowledge. He couldn't afford mistakes. Men who looked like him never could. The executive suite sprawled in hushed luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan's glittering sprawl, abstract art worth more than his condo, furniture that whispered rather than spoke. Celeste's assistant desk sat empty, computer dark. The silence felt deliberate, staged. Elijah's dress shoes made no sound on the thick carpet as he approached the corner office. Light spilled from beneath the door. He raised his hand to knock, then paused. Through the frosted glass, he could see her silhouette, standing at the window, perfectly still, outlined against the city like a monument to ambition itself. Celeste Vaughn. Ice Queen. Corporate legend. The woman who'd inherited her father's company at 29 and tripled its value in a decade. 41 years old, though she moved through boardrooms like time had agreed to wait for her permission. Pale skin that never seemed to flush with emotion. Platinum blonde hair always pulled into a severe knot, eyes the color of winter storms. Beautiful in the way glaciers were beautiful, remote, powerful, untouchable. Elijah had never seen her uncertain, never seen her hesitate. In 5 years, he'd watched her dismantle hostile takeovers, fire executives who'd worked for her father, negotiate billion-dollar deals without blinking. He'd also slept with her exactly once, 3 months ago, in a moment of grief and weakness that neither of them had mentioned since. His hand was still raised to knock when her voice cut through the door. "Come in, Elijah?" Of course she knew he was there. Celeste knew everything. He entered, closing the door with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. The office smelled like her perfume, something expensive and cold, like winter roses. She didn't turn from the window. "The Meridian deal," he began, keeping his voice steady. "I flagged the Asian market concerns in my I'm not interested in Meridian." Her reflection appeared in the window glass, layered over the city lights, still not facing him, still perfectly still. "Then why am I here?" Elijah's pulse hammered against his collar. "It's almost midnight. Whatever this is, I'm pregnant." The words landed like a physical blow. Elijah's mouth went dry. "What?" "Pregnant." Now she turned, and for the first time in 5 years, Elijah saw something like vulnerability crack across her perfect features. 13 weeks. I've confirmed it with 3 different doctors. The baby is yours. The office tilted. Elijah gripped the back of a leather chair, his analytical mind trying to process impossible data. One night, 3 months ago. The anniversary of his wife's death, 4 years gone, but the grief still ambushed him on that date. He'd stayed late at the office, avoiding the empty condo where Lily's worried eyes would see too much. Celeste had been there too, working through her own demons. Her father had died the same week 5 years earlier. Neither of them talked about what they were running from. They'd ended up in her office, a bottle of scotch that cost more than his monthly car payment. Conversation that started professional and turned painfully honest. 2 people who'd built walls so high they'd forgotten what connection felt like. It had happened once. Just once. Desperate and tender and absolutely forbidden. They'd agreed the next morning in silent mutual understanding to never speak of it again. "You're sure?" His voice came out strangled. "I don't make statements I'm not sure about." The ice was returning to her tone, familiar armor sliding back into place. "The timeline is exact. There's been no one else. I'm not in the habit of—" She paused, a muscle jumping in her jaw. "There's been no one else in 3 years." Elijah sank into the chair, his legs suddenly unreliable. "Why are you telling me now, 13 weeks? You've known for—" "I needed time to think, to consider options." Celeste moved to her desk, putting furniture between them like a negotiation table. "I'm telling you now because legally and ethically you have a right to know. What happens next is complicated." Complicated. The word tasted bitter. "You're pregnant with my child and you call it complicated. What would you call it?" Her voice sharpened. "We're employer and employee. We had a single encounter that violated every professional boundary. I'm the CEO of a publicly traded company. You're a black man in a predominantly white industry who spent his entire career avoiding exactly this kind of scandal. So yes, Elijah, it's complicated." She wasn't wrong. The truth of it sat in his chest like broken glass. "I have a daughter," he said quietly. "Lily, she's 12. I've raised her alone since her mother died. She's the center of my entire world, and I've built our life on stability and honesty and—" His voice cracked. "I can't just pretend this didn't happen." "I'm not asking you to pretend." Celeste pulled a folder from her desk drawer, sliding it across the polished surface. "I'm asking you to be realistic. I've consulted with attorneys. Depending on what you want, we have options. Financial arrangements, custody agreements. ND, as to protect both our careers. This doesn't have to destroy everything we've built." Elijah stared at the folder without touching it. "You want to lawyer this away? I want to handle it intelligently. It's a baby, our baby." The words felt strange in his mouth, too big and too real. "You can't just— What are you even saying right now?" Celeste's facade cracked further. She turned back to the window, her reflection showing something that might have been fear. "I'm saying I don't know how to do this. I'm saying I've spent my entire life in control, and this is—" Her hand went unconsciously to her still flat stomach. "I built this company into an empire. I've negotiated with presidents and prime ministers. I've never been afraid of anything in a boardroom. But this? A child? I don't know how to be someone's mother." The vulnerability in her voice hit him harder than the anger had. Elijah stood, moving closer, but maintaining the desk between them. "I didn't know how to be someone's father either," he said. "When Sarah died, Lily was 8. I was drowning in grief and terror, trying to figure out how to braid hair and help with homework and explain why her mother wasn't coming home. I failed constantly. I still fail constantly. He paused. But I show up. Every single day, I show up. That's what being a parent is. You had love. Celeste's reflection met his eyes in the glass. You loved your wife. You love your daughter. That's not... She stopped. My father raised me like a succession plan. My mother left when I was 6. I don't know what family is supposed to look like when it's not a strategic alliance. The confession hung in the air between them, fragile and devastating. That night, Elijah said carefully, 3 months ago. That wasn't strategic. Her shoulders stiffened. That night was a mistake we both agreed to forget. Was it a mistake? He moved around the desk now, close enough to see her breathing change. Or was it the first honest thing either of us had done in years? Celeste finally turned to face him fully. This close, he could see the exhaustion beneath her perfect makeup, the fear she was working so hard to hide. Honest doesn't make it right. Honest doesn't protect us from what happens when this gets out. And it will get out, Elijah. Someone always finds out. Then let them find out. Even as he said it, Elijah felt the weight of what he was proposing. His career, his reputation, the careful respectability he'd built to shield Lily from judgment. You don't mean that. Celeste shook her head. You're thinking with your heart, not your head. In 3 days, you'll realize what this costs. Your position here, the whispers, the assumptions people will make about how you really got promoted. They'll say you slept your way to the top. They'll say I showed favoritism. Your integrity, everything you've worked for, will be reduced to a scandal and a punchline. Each word was a knife, sharp and accurate. Because she was right. Elijah had spent 15 years proving he belonged in rooms where people assumed he didn't. One revelation like this and every achievement would be retroactively tainted. What about you? He asked. What does this cost you? Everything I've built becomes a tabloid headline. Ice Queen CEO knocked up by subordinate. The board will question my judgment. Shareholders will panic. Competitors will smell blood in the water. Her voice stayed level, but her hands trembled slightly. I've spent 20 years making sure no one could ever dismiss me as just another woman who let emotion compromise her business sense. This hands them the ammunition. So what's your solution? Elijah heard his voice hardening. Pretend it's not happening? Handle it like a merger gone wrong? I'm trying to protect us both. By hiding? By reducing our child to a problem that needs a legal solution? Our child. She repeated the words like they were foreign. 48 hours ago, I could barely think those words. I've always known I didn't want children. My career is my legacy. And now, her composure finally shattered. Now there's a heartbeat on an ultrasound, and doctors talking about due dates, and I'm supposed to know what to do, and I don't. I don't know how to want this. I don't know how to be what this baby needs. Tears traced silver lines down her face, the first time Elijah had ever seen Celeste Vaughn cry. He closed the remaining distance between them, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You don't have to know everything right now. You don't have to have it all figured out. I always have it figured out. The words came out broken. That's who I am. I see 10 moves ahead. I control the variables. But this? I can't control this. No, Elijah agreed quietly. You can't. Neither can I. That's terrifying. But Celeste... He waited until she met his eyes. That night, you told me something. You said you were tired of being alone. You said you'd forgotten what it felt like to let someone see you. That was real. This baby, whatever complications come with it, that's real too. Real doesn't mean right. Maybe not, but it means something. His thumbs brushed away her tears, the gesture achingly intimate. I won't abandon my child. I can't. I won't pressure you into anything you don't want, but I need you to know. I'm here. Whatever you decide, whatever happens next, I'm here. Celeste closed her eyes, leaning into his touch for just a moment before pulling away. The walls were already rebuilding, brick by brick. I need time, she said, to think clearly, without... She gestured between them. Without this clouding everything. This? Whatever this is? Was? She moved back to her desk, putting professional distance between them again. I'm not asking you to disappear, but I am asking you to give me space to process this without pressure. Can you do that? Elijah wanted to argue, wanted to push, but he recognized the fear in her eyes because he felt it too, the terror of wanting something you didn't know how to have. I can give you space, he said finally. But Celeste, that folder full of NDAs and legal arrangements, I'm not signing anything that treats our child like a liability. If we're going to figure this out, we figure it out as people, not as a crisis management strategy. She nodded slowly, something that might have been respect crossing her features. Fair enough? And I need to tell Lily, soon, before she hears it somewhere else. She's incredibly perceptive, and she deserves honesty. Your daughter. Celeste's expression shifted to something complicated. How do you think she'll... I don't know, Elijah admitted. She's been asking for years when I'm going to find someone to make me smile again, but I don't think she imagined it happening like this. No one imagined it happening like this. Silence settled between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Elijah moved toward the door. For what it's worth, he said, hand on the handle, I think you're stronger than you realize, and maybe being scared means you actually care what kind of mother you'll be. That's not nothing. Celeste didn't respond, but her hand went to her stomach again, protective and unconscious. Elijah left the office, the elevator ride down, feeling like falling through empty space. His phone showed 12:43 a.m. In 6 hours, he needed to wake Lily for school, make breakfast, help her finish the history project she'd been procrastinating, all the normal rhythms of their life, now fractured by a truth he couldn't yet speak. The parking garage was tomb silent. His car, a sensible sedan that prioritized safety over style, sat under fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. Elijah sat in the driver's seat without starting the engine, staring at nothing. A baby. He was going to have another child, with Celeste Vaughn, of all people. The woman he'd spent 5 years respectfully avoiding, maintaining perfect professional boundaries, never quite able to forget that one night when the boundaries disappeared and they'd been just two broken people seeking comfort. His phone buzzed. Text from Lily. Can't sleep. Worried about you. Are you okay? Elijah's heart clenched. His daughter's emotional radar never missed. He typed back, On my way home now. Everything's fine. Love you, baby girl. The lie tasted like ashes. Yet, the condo was dark when Elijah finally got home at 1:30 a.m., but Lily's bedroom light glowed beneath her door. He knocked softly. Come in, Dad. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, still in her school clothes, her laptop open to what was supposed to be her history presentation, but was clearly a paused YouTube video. Lily had her mother's warm brown eyes and quick smile, her hair in two puffs that she'd recently learned to do herself after watching tutorials online. She was growing up too fast, 12 years old and already seen through his carefully constructed calm. You were supposed to be asleep hours ago, Elijah said, but his voice held no real reprimand. You were supposed to be home hours ago. Lily closed the laptop, studying his face with unnerving precision. What happened? You look like someone died. No one died. He sat on the edge of her bed, the familiar ritual of goodnight talks. Just work stuff. Complicated work stuff. The merger thing? I heard you on the phone yesterday. You sounded stressed. Of course she'd heard. Lily heard everything, remembered everything, intuited everything. It was a gift and a curse, her ability to read people, to sense emotional undercurrents. Sarah had been the same way, deeply empathetic, almost painfully attuned to the feelings of others. Not the merger, Elijah said carefully. Something else. Something I need to tell you about, but I'm still figuring out how. Lily's eyes widened. Are you sick? Dad, if you're sick... I'm not sick, baby. I promise. He took her hand, squeezing gently. I'm healthy. You're healthy. But something has happened that's going to change our lives. Something big. You're getting married. The hope in her voice was both touching and heartbreaking. No, not married, but... Elijah took a breath, realizing he couldn't do this yet. Couldn't tell her about the baby without first processing it himself, without knowing what Celeste wanted, without having any kind of plan. I need a little time to work something out. Can you trust me for a few more days? I promise I'll explain everything. And I promise it's nothing bad. Complicated, but not bad. Lily searched his face for a long moment. Does it have to do with Ms. Vaughn? Elijah's heart stopped. Why would you think that? Because you're only this specific kind of stressed when it's about her. And because Lily hesitated. I don't know. Sometimes when you mention her, you get this look, like you're thinking about something that makes you sad and happy at the same time. Mom used to say that's what love looks like when people are trying not to feel it. The accuracy of her observation left Elijah speechless. His 12-year-old daughter had seen through walls he'd thought were impenetrable. You're too smart for your own good, he said finally. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give right now. He kissed her forehead, breathing in the familiar scent of her coconut shampoo. Get some sleep, baby girl. I promise we'll talk soon. Really talk. Okay. Lily hugged him tight. But Dad, whatever it is, whatever's going on, I love you. And we can handle anything as long as we're honest with each other. That's what you always tell me, right? Right. The word came out rough. That's what I always tell you. He left her room, closing the door gently, then leaned against the hallway wall, his composure finally cracking. Lily's words echoed in his head. We can handle anything as long as we're honest with each other. Honesty. The foundation of everything he'd built with his daughter. The principle that had guided every difficult conversation, every hard truth, every moment when lying would have been easier. Now he was lying by omission, and it was killing him. The next 3 days passed in surreal suspension. Elijah went to work, sat through meetings, analyzed reports, and maintained his professional mask while his entire world spun on an axis he couldn't control. Celeste remained distant, brief emails, no direct contact, a careful choreography of avoidance that felt deliberate. The office buzzed with post-merger autopsy. Thomas Reeves, the CFO, had spent the week deflecting blame with the skill of a politician, pointing fingers at analytics failures while conveniently forgetting who'd ignored those analytics in the first place. Elijah watched the performance with detached fascination, his usual investment in office politics dulled by the magnitude of his personal crisis. On Wednesday afternoon, his desk phone rang. Internal extension, executive suite. Elijah Carter, he answered, his stomach tight. Mr. Carter, this is Patricia from Ms. Vaughn's office. She's requested a meeting with you at 5 p.m. today, her private conference room. Regarding? She didn't specify. Should I confirm your attendance? Yes, I'll be there. The afternoon crawled by with excruciating slowness. Elijah caught himself checking his phone repeatedly, though Celeste never sent personal messages during business hours. At 4:45, he straightened his tie, grabbed his tablet, and headed to the executive floor. The private conference room was small, designed for sensitive discussions that needed discretion. When Elijah entered, Celeste was already there, standing by the window with her back to the door. She wore a charcoal suit that fit like armor, her hair pulled back severely, every inch the corporate warrior. Close the door, she said without turning. He did. The click sounded final. I've made a decision, Celeste began, still not facing him. I'm keeping the baby. I'm going to be a mother. Whatever that means, however poorly I do it, I'm going to try. Relief flooded through Elijah's chest. I'm glad. Don't be glad yet. There are conditions. Now she turned, and her expression was pure business. I want this kept quiet as long as possible. No announcements, no office gossip, nothing that jeopardizes either of our positions until we're ready to control the narrative. Agreed. I want a formal custody arrangement, clear boundaries and expectations. I'll handle medical care and prenatal everything, but I need to know what role you're expecting to play. Every role, Elijah said immediately. I want to be at appointments. I want to be involved in decisions. I want this child to know both parents, actively and equally. Something flickered across her face, surprise maybe, or fear. That's more complicated with our professional relationship. Then we figure out the complications. He moved closer. Celeste, I'm not interested in being a signature on a check or a name on a birth certificate. I'm interested in being a father, fully, completely, the way I am for Lily. Lily. Celeste's voice softened slightly. You need to tell her soon, before I start showing. before someone else figures it out. I know, I've been trying to find the words. There aren't easy words for this. Celeste sat down, a rare admission of fatigue. I spoke with my attorney. He recommended complete separation of our professional and personal interactions. You could transfer to a different department, report to someone else. That way, when this comes out, there's no accusation of impropriety affecting business decisions. The suggestion hit Elijah like a punch. You want me to leave your team? I want to protect us both. If you're reporting to Thomas or Jennifer, no one can claim I've been showing favoritism. Your work speaks for itself, Elijah. You've earned every promotion, but people will look for ways to discredit us. We need to close those doors before they open. She was right. Again. The logic was sound, the strategy solid, but it still felt like exile. I'll consider it, he said finally. But I'm not making career changes just to make other people comfortable with their own prejudices. If we're really doing this, then we do it with our heads up, transparent, honest. Honest gets people hurt. Hiding gets people destroyed. Elijah sat across from her. I've watched too many people twist themselves into knots trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for them, trying to make themselves smaller, quieter, more palatable. I won't do that anymore. Not for this company, not for the board, not even for you. Celeste met his eyes, and for a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two people who'd built their lives on control and competence, now facing something utterly beyond their management. You're braver than I am, she said quietly. No, I'm just more tired of pretending. Her hand went to her stomach again, that unconscious protective gesture he was beginning to recognize. I had an ultrasound yesterday. Heard the heartbeat. Her voice caught. It's real. This is really happening. Can I? Elijah hesitated. Can I come? To the next one? I'd like to be there, if you're comfortable with it. Celeste looked surprised, then nodded slowly. Okay, yes. Next Thursday at 2 p.m., Dr. Morrison's office. I'll be there. The silence that followed felt different than before. Less combative, more tentative. Two people carefully learning how to exist in the same space without armor. I should go, Elijah said finally. Lily has a school presentation tonight. I promised I'd help her practice. What's the presentation on? Women who changed history. She chose Maya Angelou. A small smile touched Celeste's lips, the first real one he'd seen in days. She sounds extraordinary. Your daughter. She is, terrifying and extraordinary in equal measure. Elijah stood. You'll meet her soon. When I tell her about the baby, she'll want to meet you. Just warning you now, Lily doesn't do anything halfway. Once she decides you're family, you're family. I'm not sure I know how to be anyone's family. Neither did I. Lily taught me. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Celeste, I think you're going to surprise yourself. You're already protecting this baby, fighting for it. That's what mothers do. He left before she could respond, but he caught her reflection in the conference room glass. Standing alone, hand pressed to her stomach, tears streaming silently down her face. The image stayed with him all the way home. That night, after Lily's presentation practice, which went flawlessly because Lily never did anything less than perfectly, Elijah sat her down in the living room, the same room where he'd told her about Sarah's death 4 years ago, the same couch where they'd cried together, held each other, promised to survive. Now they needed to survive something else. Remember how I said something big was happening? He began, his heart hammering. Lily set down her phone, giving him her full attention. Yeah. I need to tell you now, and it's going to be a lot to process, but I need you to know that I love you more than anything in this world, and that's never going to change, no matter what. Her eyes widened. Dad, you're really scaring me. Don't be scared, just listen, okay? She nodded. Elijah took a breath and told her everything. He told her about that night with Celeste, the grief they'd both been carrying, the moment of connection that had become so much more. He told her about the pregnancy, the baby, the complications of loving someone he wasn't supposed to love, and wanting something that didn't fit the life they'd carefully built. He told her the truth. Lily listened in silence, her expression shifting through shock, confusion, processing. When he finished, she sat perfectly still for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm going to have a baby sister? Or brother, but yes. And Ms. Vaughn, your boss, she's the mom. Yes?" Another long pause. Then, "Do you love her?" The question landed like an arrow, perfect and precise. "I don't know," Elijah admitted. "I care about her. I think about her constantly. But love? That's complicated when you've only ever loved one person, and she's gone." "Mom would want you to be happy," Lily said softly. "She told me that before she died. She made me promise that if something happened to her, I'd make sure you didn't stay sad forever. She said you deserved to smile again." Elijah's eyes burned. "When did she tell you that?" "The night before her last surgery. When you were downstairs talking to the doctors. She knew, Dad. She knew she might not make it, and she made me promise to take care of you." He pulled Lily into his arms, both of them crying now, holding on to each other in the wreckage and wonder of impossible moments. "I'm not upset," Lily whispered against his shoulder. "I'm not. I'm actually I've always wanted a sibling, and if Ms. Vaughn makes you look the way you look when you talk about her, then maybe this is okay. Maybe this is good." "You're incredible," Elijah said, his voice breaking. "You know that? Absolutely incredible. I learned from the best." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "So when do I get to meet her? Ms. Vaughn? I mean, if she's going to be my baby sister's mom, I should probably know her, right?" "Right." Elijah laughed through his tears. "I'll talk to her. Soon, I promise." "And Dad?" Lily's voice turned serious. "Whatever happens with the people at work, whatever they say about you or her, don't let them make you feel ashamed. You didn't do anything wrong. You fell for someone. That's not a scandal. That's just life." Her wisdom, so far beyond her 12 years, left him speechless. "When did you get so smart?" he finally managed. "I told you, I learned from the best." They stayed on the couch for a long time, talking through logistics and fears and hopes. Lily asked about due dates and baby names and whether they'd find out the gender. She talked about teaching her sibling to read, about sharing her room if needed, about all the ways their family was about to expand. And for the first time since Celeste's late-night confession, Elijah felt something like hope. Maybe they could do this. Maybe broken pieces could form something whole. Maybe family wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, telling the truth, and loving fiercely even when fear screamed to run. His phone buzzed. Text from Celeste. "Thank you for today, for coming to the meeting, for being patient with me." Elijah typed back, "Told Lily tonight. She wants to meet you, when you're ready." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I'm terrified, me too. But she's amazing. You'll see. Okay, let me know when." Elijah set down his phone, looking at his daughter, this fierce, tender, impossibly wise child who kept teaching him how to be brave. "She said yes," he told Lily. "She'll meet you." Lily grinned. "Good, because I have questions, lots of questions." "Of course you do." "And Dad? One more thing." "Yeah?" "I'm proud of you, for telling the truth, for not hiding. Mom would be proud too." The words settled into Elijah's chest, warm and healing and exactly what he needed to hear. Outside, the city hummed with its endless rhythm. Inside, in their small condo that had survived grief and was now preparing for joy, a family prepared to grow in ways they'd never imagined. The hard part was just beginning. Elijah knew that. Office politics, public scrutiny, board meetings, and whispered judgments, all of it waited like landmines in the path ahead. But tonight, sitting with his daughter, feeling the first fragile threads of hope weaving through his fear, Elijah let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could survive this too. Maybe they could even thrive. The meeting happened on a Saturday morning, neutral territory that felt safer than Celeste's office or Elijah's condo. A small cafe in Brooklyn, the kind of place that served artisan coffee and didn't blink at odd groupings of people. Elijah arrived first with Lily, who'd spent an hour choosing her outfit. A yellow sundress, and the sneakers she'd decorated herself with fabric markers, a combination that was pure 12-year-old confidence. "You're fidgeting," Lily observed, stirring her hot chocolate with unnecessary precision. "I'm not fidgeting." "Dad, your leg is bouncing so hard the table's shaking." Elijah forced himself to be still. Sorry, I just want this to go well. It'll be fine. I'm very charming. Lily's grin was infectious, but her eyes held a hint of nervousness too. What if she doesn't like me? Impossible. You're the most likable person I know. You're biased. Completely, but also correct. The cafe door opened and Celeste stepped inside. She looked different outside the corporate armor. White linen pants, a soft blue blouse, her hair down in loose waves instead of the severe knot. Still beautiful, still carrying herself with that innate authority, but somehow more human, more vulnerable. Her eyes found Elijah's across the room, and something passed between them. Recognition, fear, a silent acknowledgement that this moment mattered more than either of them could articulate. Lily saw her first. That's her? That's her. She's really pretty, like movie star pretty. Lily, what? I'm just saying. But Lily's voice had gone quiet, suddenly shy in a way that was rare for her. Celeste approached their table, moving with the careful grace of someone walking into unknown territory. Up close, Elijah could see the strain around her eyes, the way her hands gripped her purse a little too tightly. Celeste, he said, standing, thank you for coming. Of course. Her voice was steady, professional. Then her eyes moved to Lily, and something softened. You must be Lily. Lily stood too, extending her hand with the formal politeness Elijah had taught her. It's nice to meet you, Ms. Vaughn. Please, call me Celeste. She shook Lily's hand, and Elijah watched them size each other up. This brilliant, wounded woman and his perceptive daughter, two people who held pieces of his heart in completely different ways. They sat, ordered drinks, navigated the first awkward minutes of small talk that felt like dancing on eggshells. Celeste asked about school. Lily talked about her classes, her presentation on Maya Angelou, her science fair project on renewable energy. Safe topics, careful conversation. Then Lily, with the directness that always caught adults off guard, said, So you're having my dad's baby. Celeste's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. Elijah's heart stopped. Lily, he began. It's okay, Celeste interrupted, setting down her cup with deliberate calm. Yes, I am. How do you feel about that? Honestly? Lily tilted her head, studying Celeste with unnerving focus. I'm still figuring it out. Part of me is excited because I've always wanted a sibling. Part of me is confused because this is really weird timing and circumstances. And part of me is just trying to understand what this means for my dad. What do you think it means for your dad? I think it means he's scared. He's been alone for a long time, taking care of me, and now suddenly he has to share his life with someone new. Two someones, actually. That's a lot. Celeste glanced at Elijah, something vulnerable crossing her features. You're very perceptive. I know, it's a blessing and a curse. Lily leaned forward. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you love him? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Elijah wanted to intervene, to redirect, but Celeste held up a hand. That's a fair question, she said quietly. And I think the honest answer is I don't know yet. I care about your father deeply. I respect him. I think about him constantly. But love is complicated when you've spent most of your life avoiding it. Lily nodded slowly, processing. My mom told me once that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every day. Choosing to show up, choosing to be honest, choosing to stay even when it's hard. Your mother sounds like she was a very wise woman. She was, and she loved my dad more than anything. Lily's voice stayed steady, but her eyes glistened. So I guess what I'm really asking is, are you going to choose him and the baby every day, even when it gets hard? Because if you're not, I need to know now, so I can protect him. The fierce protectiveness in her voice, the way this 12-year-old girl positioned herself as her father's guardian, made Elijah's throat tight. Celeste was quiet for a long moment, her composure cracking at the edges. When she spoke, her voice was raw. I've never had anyone choose me before. Not really. My mother left. My father loved his company more than he loved me. Every relationship I've had has been transactional, strategic, safe. So I don't know if I know how to choose someone the way you're describing, but I want to learn. I want to try. For the baby. And, she glanced at Elijah, For your father. If he'll be patient with me while I figure it out. Lily studied her for another long beat, then nodded once, decisive. Okay, that's honest. I appreciate honest. You're very much like your father. Thank you. I consider that the highest compliment. A small smile tugged at Celeste's lips, genuine, unguarded. It's meant as one. The tension eased fractionally. They talked more easily after that, the conversation flowing into safer waters. Celeste asked about Lily's interests, her hobbies, her dreams. Lily asked about Celeste's work, how she'd built her company, what it was like being the only woman in most of her business meetings. Exhausting, Celeste admitted. Every decision is scrutinized twice as hard. Every mistake gets magnified. I can't afford to be emotional or uncertain or... She paused. Pregnant, apparently. That's going to complicate things significantly. People are going to judge you, Lily said matter-of-factly. They're going to judge my dad, too. Probably worse, honestly. People always assume the worst about black men. Celeste's expression tightened. I know. I'm trying to find ways to protect him from that. You can't protect him by hiding. Lily's wisdom was almost painful in its accuracy. People will make up worse stories if you act like you have something to be ashamed of. But if you just own it, if you say, yes, this happened, and it's nobody's business but ours, then they don't have power over you. When did you get so wise? Celeste asked, echoing Elijah's words from days before. My parents taught me well, both of them. Lily glanced at Elijah, then back to Celeste. And if you're going to be part of this family, you should know, we don't hide. We don't make ourselves small for other people's comfort. My dad taught me that. It's like our family code or something. Your family code, Celeste repeated softly. I like that. They stayed at the cafe for 2 hours, the conversation deepening, the walls coming down brick by careful brick. Elijah watched Lily work her magic, this incredible child who'd somehow learned to hold space for complicated emotions, to ask hard questions with compassion, to see people's fears and meet them with grace instead of judgment. By the time they left, Celeste was laughing at one of Lily's stories about her science teacher, and Lily was showing Celeste pictures on her phone of the quilt she was making in her art class. She's extraordinary, Celeste said to Elijah as they walked to their cars, Lily running ahead to look at a dog being walked nearby. Truly extraordinary. She is, terrifies me daily with how much she sees. The question about choosing you, about choosing this every day. Celeste stopped, turning to face him fully. She's protecting you, making sure I'm not going to hurt you. She's been doing that since Sarah died, watching me, making sure I'm okay. Sometimes I think she's more parent than child. You've raised her to be strong, independent, honest. Celeste's hand went unconsciously to her stomach again. I don't know if I can do that, be that kind of mother. You're already doing it. Elijah gestured to where Lily was crouched down, petting the dog with careful gentleness. You answered her honestly. You didn't patronize her or try to soften the truth. You met her where she was. That's what good parents do. I was terrified the entire time. So was I the first 100 times. Still am, most days. He smiled. Being a parent is just being terrified and showing up anyway. Celeste looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her expression. The appointment, Thursday at 2. Are you still planning to come? If the invitation still stands. It does. I'd like you there. Then I'll be there. Lily bounded back over, slightly out of breath. That dog's name is Captain. Isn't that the best name ever? Can we get a dog, Dad? We've discussed this. Dogs require yards and time we don't have. But we're going to have more people in the family. More people means more hands to help with a dog. That's just math. Celeste laughed, a real full laugh that transformed her entire face. I can't argue with that logic. See, Dad? Celeste gets it, Lily grinned triumphantly. Don't encourage her, Elijah said, but he was smiling too. I should go, Celeste said, reluctance in her voice. I have some work to finish before Monday. It's Saturday, Lily protested. You're not supposed to work on Saturdays. When you run a company, every day is a work day. That sounds exhausting. You should rest more, especially now, with the baby. Celeste's eyes softened. You're probably right. I'm definitely right. Ask my dad. I'm always right. That is absolutely not true, Elijah interjected. Lily hugged Celeste impulsively, the gesture catching the older woman completely off guard. Celeste froze for a moment, then slowly, carefully hugged her back. "Thank you for meeting me," Lily said, "and for being honest, and for choosing to try. That's all anyone can really do." When Lily pulled back, Celeste's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Thank you for giving me a chance." "Of course. We're going to be family. That's what family does." The simple certainty in Lily's voice, the absolute conviction that they were already family, no hesitation, no conditions, seemed to undo something in Celeste. She nodded, not trusting her voice, then turned to Elijah. "Thursday," she said. "Thursday," he confirmed. She left, walking to her car with that same controlled grace, but Elijah noticed her hand shaking slightly as she unlocked the door. Lily watched her go, thoughtful. "She's really scared," Lily observed. "Yeah, she is." "Of being a mom? Or of loving you?" "Maybe both." Lily slipped her hand into his, the way she used to when she was small and needed reassurance. "I like her, Dad. She's real, not fake nice or pretending, just real and scared and trying. That's good." "I'm glad you like her." "Do you love her?" The question again, this time from his daughter. Elijah thought about it, really thought about it, about the way his pulse jumped when Celeste walked into a room, the way he'd memorized the exact shade of her eyes, the way that one night together had haunted him for months, not because it was forbidden, but because it had felt like coming home after years of being lost. "I think I might," he admitted quietly. "I think I've been falling in love with her for a long time, and that night just made it impossible to deny anymore." "Does she know?" "No, and I'm not telling her. Not yet. She has enough to process without adding that pressure. But you should tell her eventually. Mom always said the worst thing you can do is leave love unspoken. Life's too short for that." Elijah pulled Lily close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "When did you turn into a relationship counselor?" "I've been watching a lot of rom-coms while you're at work. Very educational." "Of course you have." They drove home, Lily chattering about the cafe's pastries and whether Celeste would let her help pick out baby clothes and what they should name the baby if it was a girl. Normal conversation, the kind they'd always had, but threaded through with this new reality that was taking shape around them. That night, after Lily was asleep, Elijah sat in the dark living room, his phone in his hand, staring at Celeste's contact information. He wanted to text her, wanted to tell her that the meeting had meant everything, that watching her with Lily had cracked something open in his chest, that he was falling and didn't know how to stop. Instead, he typed, "Lily thinks you're wonderful. Thank you for today." The response came quickly. "She's incredible. You've done an amazing job raising her alone. I had good motivation. She's easy to love." A longer pause this time. Then, "I'm beginning to understand that. About both of you." Elijah stared at the message, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. He typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, "See you Thursday." Thursday. "Good night, Elijah." "Good night, Celeste." He set down the phone, but sleep was impossible. His mind spun through possibilities and complications, through hope and fear, through all the ways this could go right or catastrophically wrong. Thursday came faster than expected. Elijah left work at 1:30, telling his supervisor he had a personal appointment. The excuse felt thin, but no one questioned it. He met Celeste in the parking lot of Dr. Morrison's office, a discreet medical building in the Upper East Side. She was already there, sitting in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Elijah tapped on her window. She startled, then rolled it down. "You okay?" he asked. "No, I'm terrified. What if something's wrong? What if the baby isn't developing properly? What if—" "Hey!" He opened her door, crouching beside her. "Whatever we find out in there, we find out together. Okay? You're not alone in this anymore?" Celeste's eyes searched his face, looking for something, reassurance maybe, or permission to be scared. "I've been having nightmares. About failing at this. Being a terrible mother. Damaging this child the way my parents damaged me." "You won't. You don't know that." "I know you're already worried about it, which means you care. My mother once told me the parents who worry about being good parents are usually the ones who end up being great ones. It's the people who think they have it all figured out who usually screw it up. A small, shaky smile. Your mother sounds wise. She is. She lives in Florida now with my stepdad, spoiling my cousin's kids since I only gave her one grandchild. Does she know about the baby? Not yet. I wanted to wait until we were sure about, he paused, about what we're doing, how we're handling this. What are we doing, Elijah? The question was loaded with everything unspoken between them. He stood, offering his hand. Right now, we're going to see our baby. Everything else we figure out as we go. Celeste took his hand, letting him help her out of the car. She didn't let go immediately, her fingers tightening around his. I'm really scared, she whispered. Me too. They walked into the office together, hands still linked, a small act of solidarity that felt monumental. The waiting room was designed for comfort, soft lighting, gentle music, magazines nobody ever read. They checked in with the receptionist, a kind-faced woman who smiled at them like they were just another normal couple expecting their first child together. No judgment, no questions, just routine medical pleasantness. Dr. Morrison will be with you shortly, she said. They sat in adjacent chairs, the silence between them thick with anticipation. Celeste's leg bounced, the same nervous tell Elijah had. He put his hand on her knee, stilling it. Sorry, she murmured. I never get nervous. I negotiate multi-million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but this is different. This matters more. Yes. A nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. Celeste Vaughn? They stood together. The nurse's eyes flicked between them, then to the clipboard processing. If she had questions about their relationship or the optics of a CEO and her employee attending prenatal appointments together, she kept them to herself. Right this way. The examination room was clinical but warm, decorated with posters of fetal development and cheerful reminders about prenatal vitamins. Celeste sat on the examination table, the paper crinkling beneath her, while Elijah took the chair beside her. Doctor Morrison entered moments later, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of competent calm. Celeste, good to see you again. And you must be the father? Elijah Carter. He shook her hand. Wonderful. First pregnancy for you both? Second for me, Elijah said. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And first for you, Celeste. How are you feeling? Any concerning symptoms? Tired, nauseated in the mornings, emotional. Celeste's clinical tone made the symptoms sound like quarterly earnings reports. All very normal. Let's take a look at how baby's developing, shall we? The ultrasound machine hummed to life. Dr. Morrison squeezed gel onto Celeste's abdomen, still flat, showing no outward signs of the life growing inside. Elijah watched Celeste's face, saw her flinch at the cold gel, saw her jaw tighten with tension. He reached for her hand. She gripped it hard enough to hurt. The wand pressed against her skin, and the screen filled with grainy black and white images that meant nothing to Elijah's untrained eye. Dr. Morrison moved the wand with practiced precision, her expression focused. Then, suddenly, there it was. A tiny form, impossibly small, curled in on itself. Head, body, the suggestion of limbs. And movement, actual, visible movement. There's your baby, Dr. Morrison said, her voice warm, measuring right on track for 14 weeks. Strong heartbeat. You can see it here, this rapid flickering. The sound filled the room then. Whoosh, 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 fast and insistent and utterly alive. Elijah's breath caught. Beside him, Celeste made a small, choked sound. That's, she started, then stopped. That's really your baby, Dr. Morrison confirmed. Perfectly healthy so far. Good size, good positioning, nice strong heartbeat at 155 beats per minute. Tears streamed down Celeste's face, unchecked and unashamed. Elijah felt his own eyes burning as he stared at the screen, at this tiny person who was half him, half the extraordinary woman beside him. Everything looks good? Celeste asked, her voice breaking. Everything looks excellent. Baby's developing beautifully. You're doing great, Celeste. Dr. Morrison took measurements, explaining each one in gentle detail. She pointed out the fingers forming, the spine, the profile of the face. She printed pictures, grainy, abstract, but precious beyond measure. When the appointment finished, Celeste was still crying. Elijah helped her sit up, handed her tissues, waited while she collected herself. "Sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "I don't know why I'm so emotional." "Hormones," Dr. Morrison said kindly. "And also because you just saw your child for the first time. That's profound, no matter who you are." They left the office in a daze, clutching ultrasound pictures like treasure. In the parking lot, Celeste leaned against her car, staring at the images. "It's real," she said softly. "I mean, I knew it was real, but now you've seen it. Heard the heartbeat. I can't believe something that small is inside me, growing, becoming a person." Elijah looked at his own copy of the ultrasound, the same wonder flooding through him that he'd felt when he'd first seen Lily on a screen like this, 14 years ago with Sarah beside him, both of them terrified and exhilarated. "Can I show Lily?" he asked. "The pictures?" "Of course. She should see her sibling. She'll be over the moon. She's already planning how to teach the baby to read." Celeste laughed, the sound watery but genuine. "She's wonderful, Elijah. You know that, right? What you've created with her, that relationship, that trust, it's extraordinary." "I had a good example. My parents loved fiercely, even when things were hard. I just tried to do the same." "I don't have that example. I don't know what fierce love looks like in a family. My father loved his legacy. My mother loved her freedom. I was just incidental to both. Then we'll figure it out together. You, me, Lily, and this little one." He touched the ultrasound picture gently. "We'll build something new, something better." Celeste looked at him, and the vulnerability in her eyes was breathtaking. "You really believe that? That we can make this work?" "I have to believe it. The alternative is unthinkable." She stepped closer, and for a moment Elijah thought she might kiss him. Instead, she rested her forehead against his shoulder, a gesture of exhaustion and trust and desperate hope. "Thank you for being here," she whispered, "for not running, for choosing to stay. Where else would I be?" They stood like that for a long moment, two people holding on to each other in a parking lot, the ultrasound pictures pressed between them like a promise neither of them knew how to keep, but both were determined to try. When Celeste finally pulled away, her composure was rebuilding, but something had shifted. Some wall had crumbled that wouldn't be easily reconstructed. "I should get back to the office," she said, but there was no conviction in it. "Or you could take the afternoon off, rest, process." "I don't know how to do that." "Then learn. For the baby." She smiled, small but real. "You're very persistent." "So I've been told." "Elijah." She hesitated. Would you want to have dinner with me? Not a meeting or a business discussion, just dinner?" The invitation hung between them, weighted with significance. "Like a date?" he asked carefully. "I don't know what to call it, but yes, like a date, if you want." "I want." "Okay. Friday night? I'll cook." Or, "No, I can't cook. I'll order from somewhere excellent." "Friday night sounds perfect." They exchanged a long look, something unspoken passing between them. Acknowledgement, maybe, of what they were building, what they were risking, what they were allowing themselves to hope for. Elijah drove back to work in a fog of emotion, the ultrasound picture on the passenger seat beside him. He made it through the rest of the afternoon on autopilot, his mind replaying the sound of that tiny heartbeat, the image of those forming fingers, the tears streaming down Celeste's face. That evening, he showed Lily the ultrasound. She studied it with intense focus, tracing the small form with her finger. "That's my baby sister?" she asked. "Or brother? We won't know for a few more weeks." "It's a sister. I can feel it." Lily's certainty was absolute. "What are you going to name her?" "We haven't discussed names yet." "You should name her something strong, like Maya or Rosa, or, ooh, what about Zora? After Zora Neale Hurston? Those are all very strong names. Because she's going to be strong. She has you and Celeste as parents, and me as a big sister. She's going to be unstoppable." Elijah pulled Lily close, overwhelmed by her fierce love for a sibling she hadn't even met yet. "You're going to be an amazing big sister." "I know. I've been practicing." "On who?" The stuffed animals. I've been reading to them and teaching them important life skills. What life skills do stuffed animals need? Emotional intelligence, mostly. Mr. Bear has anger management issues. Elijah laughed, the sound surprising him. Despite everything, the complications, the fear, the uncertainty, there was joy here. Unexpected, complicated joy. Friday night arrived with nervous anticipation. Elijah dropped Lily at her best friend's house for a sleepover, then drove to Celeste's apartment building, a converted industrial space in Tribeca that probably cost more per month than his annual salary. The doorman directed him to the penthouse. Of course it was the penthouse. Celeste answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down, feet bare. The casual intimacy of it stole Elijah's breath. "Hi," she said, suddenly shy. "Hi yourself." She'd ordered from an Italian place that apparently required 3 weeks' notice for reservations. The dining table was set simply, elegantly, candles lit even though the floor-to-ceiling windows provided a view of the city that needed no enhancement. "This is beautiful," Elijah said. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I ordered a variety." "I hope that's okay." "It's perfect." They ate and talked, the conversation flowing more easily than it ever had in the office. Celeste told him about growing up in her father's shadow, always proving herself, never quite good enough. Elijah told her about his childhood in Chicago, his parents' steady love, his decision to move to New York to build something bigger than what he'd known. "Do you miss it?" Celeste asked. "Chicago. Sometimes. The food, definitely. The people. But New York gave me opportunities I wouldn't have had there, and it gave me this life with Lily." "Tell me about Sarah, if that's okay. You don't talk about her much." Elijah was quiet for a moment, the familiar grief rising and settling. "She was light. That's the best way I can describe her. She made everything brighter just by being in the room. We met in college, got married too young, had Lily probably before we were ready, but we were happy. Really, genuinely happy." He smiled at the memory. "She was a teacher, 3rd grade. Loved every single one of her students like they were her own. When she got sick, ovarian cancer, stage 4, she fought like hell. Not for herself, but for Lily. For me. She wanted more time with us." "How long were you married?" 10 years, 4 months, 16 days. The precision came automatically. "She died 4 years ago next month. Some days it feels like yesterday. Other days it feels like a different lifetime." "Do you still love her?" The question was gentle, not accusatory, but it cut deep nonetheless. "I'll always love her," Elijah said honestly. "But I've learned that love doesn't have limits. Loving her doesn't mean I can't love someone else. It doesn't mean my heart can't expand. Sarah taught me that, actually. Toward the end, she made me promise I wouldn't stay alone forever. She said she wanted me to find joy again, find someone who made me laugh, find love that didn't end with her." Celeste's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "She sounds extraordinary." "She was. And she'd like you." "How do you know?" "Because you're strong and brilliant and you challenge me. Sarah always said I needed someone who wouldn't let me hide behind work and responsibility, someone who'd push me to feel things fully, to live fully." He reached across the table, taking Celeste's hand. "That's you. I'm terrified of failing you, failing the baby, failing myself." "Fear means you care. That's not weakness, Celeste. That's proof you're already becoming who this baby needs you to be." She stood, moving around the table to where he sat. Elijah stood too, and then she was in his arms, trembling slightly, her face pressed against his chest. "I think I'm falling in love with you," she whispered, "and it terrifies me more than anything I've ever done." Elijah's heart stopped, restarted, hammered against his ribs. He tilted her face up, seeing his own fear and hope reflected in her eyes. "I'm already in love with you," he said. "Have been for months, maybe longer. I'm terrified too." "What do we do with that?" "We choose each other, every day, the way Lily said. We show up, we're honest, we stay even when it's hard." Celeste kissed him then, soft and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back. It was different from that first night, less about escape, more about claiming something real and precious and worth fighting for. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Celeste said, "The office, Monday. People are going to notice something's changed." "Let them notice." "Elijah, no more hiding, no more pretending this isn't real. We'll be professional. We'll maintain appropriate boundaries at work. But I'm not going to act like you don't matter to me, like we're not building a family together. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They stayed up late, talking and kissing and planning the impossible future that was taking shape between them. When Elijah finally left, the sun was starting to lighten the sky, and his heart felt fuller than it had in years. He picked up Lily from her sleepover, and she took one look at his face and grinned. You told her you love her. How do you? Dad, you're glowing. It's kind of gross, but also really sweet. I'm not glowing. You absolutely are. Did she say it back? She did. Lily pumped her fist in victory. Yes, I knew it. I totally called this. You're very pleased with yourself. I have excellent relationship instincts. It's a gift. Monday morning came with new resolve and old anxieties. Elijah walked into Vaughn Industries expecting whispers, sideways glances, the subtle shift that happened when people suspected scandal. What he got was worse. Thomas Reeves was waiting by his desk, arms crossed, expression cold. My office, the CFO said. Now. Elijah's gut tightened as he followed Thomas Reeves through the maze of cubicles, aware of eyes tracking their movement. The CFO's corner office smelled like expensive cologne and barely concealed contempt. Thomas closed the door with deliberate care, the click sounding ominous. Sit, Thomas commanded, moving behind his desk like a general preparing for battle. Elijah remained standing. I prefer not to. That wasn't a request, Carter. And I'm still not sitting. Whatever you have to say, say it. Thomas's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his carefully maintained tan. He was 52, silver-haired, with the kind of patrician features that came from generations of wealth and the absolute certainty that the world owed him deference. Fine. We'll do this standing. Thomas leaned against his desk, arms crossed. I'm going to ask you a question, and I expect absolute honesty. Are you sleeping with Celeste Vaughn? The directness of it was meant to shock, to intimidate. Elijah kept his expression neutral. That's an inappropriate question. It's a necessary question when it concerns the integrity of this company. My personal life has nothing to do with my job performance. Your personal life has everything to do with your job performance when you're fucking the CEO. Thomas's voice dripped venom. Don't insult my intelligence by playing coy. You've been seen leaving her apartment building, meeting her at medical offices. Sources say she's pregnant. So I'll ask again, are you sleeping with Celeste Vaughn? Every word was a calculated strike. Elijah's mind raced through responses, through deflections, through the careful corporate dance he'd mastered over 15 years. But he heard Lily's voice in his head. We don't hide. We don't make ourselves small for other people's comfort. My relationship with Ms. Vaughn is none of your concern, Elijah said evenly. So you admit there is a relationship. I admit nothing. What I'm telling you is that unless my work performance has declined, which it hasn't, my personal life isn't subject to your interrogation. Thomas pushed off the desk, moving closer with predatory intent. You arrogant son of a bitch. You really think you can sleep your way to the top and no one will notice? You think because she's got some misguided attraction to you that the rules don't apply? I've earned every promotion I've received based on merit and results. If you have evidence otherwise, present it. If not, this conversation is over. Evidence? How about the fact that you've received 3 promotions in 5 years? That you're suddenly lead analyst on every major deal? That your salary has increased 40% while everyone else gets standard cost of living adjustments? Thomas's smile was cruel. That's not merit, Carter. That's favoritism. And when it comes out that you've been warming her bed, every decision she's made regarding your career becomes suspect. The words hit their target, because they echoed Elijah's own fears, the voice in his head that whispered he didn't belong, that his success was conditional, that one mistake would unravel everything. You've been waiting for this, Elijah said quietly, waiting for any excuse to discredit me. I've been waiting for you to overstep. And congratulations, you've done it spectacularly. Thomas returned to his desk, pulling out a folder. I'm recommending your immediate suspension pending a full investigation into potential conflicts of interest and ethical violations. You'll be placed on administrative leave while HR reviews your entire employment history. You can't do that without cause. I have cause, An inappropriate relationship with a superior that compromises company integrity. That's grounds for termination, let alone suspension. Then you'll need to suspend Ms. Vaughn too. Or does your righteous indignation only apply to employees who don't look like the rest of the executive team? Thomas's face flushed. Don't you dare play the race card with me. I'm not playing anything. I'm stating facts. You've never questioned the all-white boys club that runs this company, never investigated the nepotism that put half the VPs in their positions, never cared about conflicts of interest when they benefited people who look like you. But a black man gets promoted based on actual competence, and suddenly you're concerned about ethics? You're out of line. No, you're out of line. And if you try to suspend me without legitimate cause, I'll have a discrimination lawsuit filed before lunch. They stared at each other across the desk, the tension thick enough to choke on. Thomas spoke first, his voice deadly calm. You're making a mistake, Carter, a career-ending mistake. I'm trying to give you an out here. Take the suspension, cooperate with the investigation, and maybe, you walk away with your reputation somewhat intact. Fight me on this, and I'll make sure you never work in finance again. Not in this city, not anywhere. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I have connections at every major firm in New York. One word from me and you're blacklisted. Permanently. Elijah felt the trap closing around him. This was how it worked. The subtle machinery of power protecting itself, punishing anyone who dared to challenge the established order. He could fight, could stand on principle, could demand justice. And he'd lose everything. His career, his reputation, his ability to provide for Lily and the baby coming. Or he could comply. Take the suspension, let them investigate. Hope that truth and merit would somehow prevail against institutional prejudice and Thomas's personal vendetta. I need to speak with Ms. Vaughn before I agree to anything, Elijah said finally. Ms. Vaughn has been advised of the situation. She's recused herself from all decisions regarding your employment. Convenient. It's appropriate, which is more than I can say for your behavior. Thomas opened the folder, sliding a document across the desk. This is the suspension notice, effective immediately. You'll surrender your access badge, company laptop, and any proprietary materials. HR will contact you within 48 hours to schedule an interview. Elijah didn't touch the document. I want to see Celeste. That's not possible. Why not? Because she's currently in an emergency board meeting explaining why the CEO of a billion-dollar company was reckless enough to get involved with a subordinate. Your little romance has created a PR nightmare, and she's dealing with the fallout. The words hit like a physical blow. Celeste was facing the board, alone, defending decisions and feelings that Elijah had encouraged. He'd pushed her to stop hiding, to embrace what they were building, and now she was paying the price. This is exactly what she was afraid of, Elijah said, more to himself than Thomas. She knew this would happen. She tried to protect us both, and I convinced her to what? Throw away her credibility for a fling? Smart move, Carter. Real smart. Thomas's satisfaction was palpable. Sign the suspension notice and get out. You're done here. Elijah's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, saw Celeste's name, and answered immediately. Don't sign anything, her voice came through, tight with strain. Thomas has no authority to suspend you without my approval, and I haven't given it. He says you've recused yourself. I've done no such thing. Where are you? His office. Stay there. I'm coming down. The line went dead. Thomas had heard enough of the conversation to look concerned. She can't protect you forever, he said. The board is already questioning her judgment. If she overrules this suspension, it'll only prove their concerns are justified. Or it'll prove you're overstepping your authority and using company policy as a weapon for personal vendettas. I'm protecting this company from a scandal. You're creating the scandal. The door opened without a knock, and Celeste walked in like a force of nature. She wore a slate gray suit that could have been armor, her hair pulled back severely, but her eyes blazed with barely controlled fury. Thomas, she said, her voice ice-sharp, what the hell do you think you're doing? My job, which is more than I can say for you lately. Your job doesn't include suspending employees without proper cause or executive approval. Elijah's work performance has been exemplary. There are no grounds for suspension. His relationship with you is grounds enough. Our personal relationship has nothing to do with his professional capabilities. It has everything to do with the appearance of impropriety. The board agrees with me. The board doesn't make personnel decisions. I do. Celeste's tone could have cut glass. And I'm telling you now, you have no authority to suspend Elijah Carter or any other employee without my explicit approval. Thomas stood, squaring off against her. The board is calling for an investigation into conflicts of interest. They want to know if your judgment has been compromised by your relationship with Carter. They want to know if company decisions have been influenced by personal feelings. And frankly, Celeste, I think those are fair questions. Then investigate. But you don't punish Elijah for my decisions. You don't destroy his career because you disapprove of my personal life. I'm trying to preserve what's left of this company's reputation. You've turned us into tabloid fodder. Ice Queen CEO knocked up by employee. That's the headline waiting to break. Our stock price will tank. Shareholders will panic. And all because you couldn't keep your personal life separate from your professional responsibilities. The cruelty of it, the way Thomas weaponized every fear Celeste had confessed in vulnerable moments, made Elijah's blood boil. Enough, he said, stepping between them. You want someone to blame, Thomas? Blame me. I pursued Celeste. I pushed for this relationship. If there's punishment to be distributed, I'll take it. Leave her out of this. How noble, Thomas sneered. The hero sacrificing himself for his lady. Except this isn't a fairy tale, Carter. This is business. And in business, actions have consequences. Then let the consequences fall on me. They will, both of you. Thomas's smile was vicious. The board wants Celeste to take medical leave, immediately. They're concerned that her judgment has been compromised by hormones and, let's be honest, poor decision-making. They want me to assume interim CEO responsibilities until after the baby is born, and she's had time to, quote, regain perspective. Celeste went absolutely still, the color draining from her face. That's a coup. That's protective governance. That's you seizing power using my pregnancy as an excuse. If you kept your personal life private, there'd be no excuse to seize. You did this to yourself. Elijah watched Celeste's composure crack, saw the devastation in her eyes as she realized the full extent of what was happening. Thomas wasn't just attacking their relationship. He was using it to orchestrate a corporate takeover, to strip Celeste of the company she'd built, the position she'd fought for, the power she'd earned. You can't do this, she said, but her voice had lost its certainty. The board votes tomorrow. I have the support I need. Thomas gathered his papers, the victory already his in his mind. You can attend if you want, Celeste. Watch them strip away everything you've built. Or you can take the medical leave with some dignity intact. Either way, you're done. He left his own office, leaving them standing in the wreckage of their carefully constructed lives. Celeste swayed slightly. Elijah caught her, steadying her with hands on her shoulders. Hey, breathe. Just breathe. He's taking my company. He's using our baby to take my company. We'll fight this. We'll get lawyers. There's nothing to fight. The board has the authority to mandate medical leave if they believe my health or judgment is compromised. And with the pregnancy, with our relationship, they have all the ammunition they need. Her voice broke. I warned you this would happen. I told you we should have kept this quiet, but you pushed and I listened and now... Don't, Elijah said firmly. Don't blame yourself or us for their corruption. Thomas has been looking for an excuse to take your position for years. He would have found something else, if not this. But this made it easy. This handed him the perfect justification. She pulled away from him, wrapping her arms around herself. I've spent 20 years building this company, proving I belonged here, earning respect in rooms full of men who thought I was just my father's pretty daughter playing business. And in one moment of weakness, one night of letting my guard down, I've lost it all. You haven't lost anything yet. Yes, I have. The moment the board votes to put me on medical leave, I'm finished. Even if I come back after the baby's born, I'll never recover the authority. They'll always question my decisions. Always wonder if I'm too emotional, too compromised, too female to lead effectively. The defeat in her voice was worse than the anger. Elijah had watched Celeste face hostile takeovers, navigate recessions, stare down competitors without blinking. But this was different. This was personal. This cut at everything she'd built her identity around. What if we tell the truth? Elijah asked. What if we go to the board tomorrow and explain exactly what happened? No lawyers, no PR spin, just honesty. Maybe if they see us as people instead of a scandal, They don't care about people. They care about profit margins and stock prices and protecting their own interests. Honesty won't save us, Elijah. It'll just give them more ammunition. She was probably right. Elijah knew she was probably right, but he also knew that hiding had gotten them here. That silence had allowed Thomas to control the narrative, to turn their love into something sordid and shameful. His phone rang. Lily's school. His stomach dropped. "I have to take this," he said, answering. "Hello? Mr. Carter, this is Principal Williams. I'm calling because Lily collapsed during PE class. She's conscious now, but the school nurse is concerned about her heart rate. We've called an ambulance. They're taking her to Mount Sinai." The world tilted. "I'm on my way." He ended the call, his hands shaking. "Lily's in the hospital. I have to go." "What happened?" Celeste's face filled with alarm. "She collapsed. Her heart. They're taking her to Mount Sinai." Elijah was already moving toward the door, his mind spinning through terrifying possibilities. Lily had been born with a heart murmur, something the doctors had assured them would resolve on its own. But what if it hadn't? What if something was wrong, seriously wrong, and he'd been so consumed with his own drama that he'd missed the signs? "I'm coming with you," Celeste said, grabbing her purse. "You don't have to." "She's going to be my daughter's sister. That makes her my family too. I'm coming." They ran for the elevator, the corporate crisis momentarily forgotten in the face of something infinitely more important. The ride down felt endless. Elijah's mind raced through worst-case scenarios, through memories of Lily as a baby, the doctors explaining the murmur, the follow-up appointments that had shown improvement, the assurances that she'd be fine. But what if she wasn't fine? What if he lost her the way he'd lost Sarah? The thought was unbearable. Celeste drove. Her car was faster, and she didn't argue when Elijah's hands trembled too badly to manage keys. She navigated Manhattan traffic with aggressive precision, running yellow lights and ignoring honking horns. Her hand found his across the center console, squeezing tight. "She's going to be okay," Celeste said. "Lily's strong. She's going to be okay." Elijah couldn't respond. His throat was too tight, his mind too full of terror. Mount Sinai's emergency entrance was chaos. Ambulances, paramedics, people rushing in and out. Elijah bolted from the car before it fully stopped, sprinting to the reception desk. Lily Carter, 12 years old. They brought her in by ambulance. The receptionist checked her system with agonizing slowness. "She's in examination room 7. Down the hall. Take the second left. Only family allowed back." Elijah ran, Celeste right behind him, despite the receptionist's protests. They found room 7, and through the curtain, Elijah could see Lily on a hospital bed, wires connected to her chest, a nurse taking her blood pressure. "Lily," he gasped, pushing through the curtain. His daughter's face was pale, but she managed a weak smile. "Hey, Dad, guess PE got a little intense." "What happened? What's wrong?" "My heart was beating really fast, like crazy fast, and then I felt dizzy and everything went sideways." She tried for levity, but her eyes were scared. "The nurse at school freaked out, which kind of freaked me out more." The attending physician entered, a young woman with kind eyes and efficient movements. "Mr. Carter? I'm Dr. Patel. Lily's had what we call a supraventricular tachycardia episode. Her heart rate spiked to over 200 beats per minute, which caused the dizziness and collapse. Is she okay? Is this related to her heart murmur? Possibly. We're running an EKG and some blood work to determine the cause. Has she had episodes like this before? No, never. She's always been healthy, active. The murmur was supposed to resolve on its own. Sometimes these conditions don't present until adolescence. The good news is her heart rate has returned to normal. She's stable, but we'll want to keep her overnight for observation and possibly schedule a cardiac stress test." Overnight. The word should have been reassuring. She was stable, she'd be monitored, but all Elijah heard was that his daughter's heart had betrayed her, that the organ keeping her alive had malfunctioned in a way that could happen again, anytime, anywhere. "Can I stay with her?" he asked. "Of course. We'll move her to a room shortly." Dr. Patel left. Lily reached for Elijah's hand. "I'm okay, Dad. Don't look so scared." "You collapsed. Your heart stopped working right. I'm allowed to be scared." "My heart didn't stop. It just got a little overenthusiastic. She glanced past him to where Celeste stood uncertainly by the curtain. "Hi, Celeste." "Hi, Lily." Celeste stepped closer, her usual poise shaken. "You gave us quite a scare." "Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your workday with medical drama. Your health is more important than work. Always." Lily studied her with those two perceptive eyes. "You've been crying. Your makeup is smudged." Celeste touched her face self-consciously. "It's been a difficult morning. The people at the office found out about you and Dad, didn't they? That's why you're both here in the middle of the day looking stressed." "How do you—" Elijah started. "I'm 12, not oblivious. I figured it would happen eventually. People are mean when they don't understand something." Lily squeezed Elijah's hand. "But you're here now, both of you. That's what matters." The simple wisdom of it, delivered from a hospital bed by a 12-year-old who'd just had a cardiac episode, made Celeste's composure finally shatter. She sank into the chair beside Lily's bed, tears streaming silently. "I'm sorry," Celeste whispered. "I'm so sorry. If I'd been stronger, if I'd protected your father better—" "Stop," Lily interrupted gently. "You don't have to apologize for loving my dad, or for being scared. Love is supposed to be scary. That's how you know it's real. When did you get so wise?" "I have excellent role models." Lily looked between them. "And for the record, I don't care what anyone at your stupid company thinks. You and Dad are good together. You make each other happy. That's more important than office politics or whatever drama is happening." A nurse came to move Lily to a private room. The transfer was efficient, clinical, but every moment of watching his daughter wheeled through hospital corridors reopened wounds Elijah thought had healed. The last time he'd walked these halls, Sarah had been the patient. The last time he'd waited in a hospital room, he'd been saying goodbye. History wasn't repeating. Lily was stable. The doctors were optimistic. This wasn't cancer or terminal illness or any of the nightmares that haunted his sleep. But the fear was the same. That raw, primal terror of losing someone you loved more than your own life. Celeste stayed. Despite the crisis at her company, despite the board meeting scheduled for the next day that would determine her entire future, she stayed. She sat in the uncomfortable hospital chair, ordered food neither of them could eat, and kept quiet vigil with Elijah as they waited for test results. "You don't have to be here," Elijah said when Lily finally fell asleep, exhausted by stress and medical intervention. "You should be preparing for tomorrow, calling lawyers, building your defense." "I'm exactly where I need to be." "Celeste, when my father had his first heart attack, I was closing a deal in London. My assistant called, said he'd been rushed to the hospital, and I finished the negotiation before I booked a flight home. By the time I got there, he was already recovering, already back to barking orders at nurses and demanding his laptop." She stared at Lily's sleeping form. "I told myself it was fine. That business came first, that he would have done the same, and maybe he would have. But I've regretted it every day since. I chose work over family, and I can never get that time back." "This is different." "No, it's not. Lily is family now. Your family, my family. It's all the same family, and I'm choosing to be here. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Thomas does or the board decides, I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you both." Elijah crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. She held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that had gone liquid and unstable. "I love you," he said into her hair. "I love you. And I'm not going to let them destroy us. They already have. By tomorrow I'll be on forced medical leave and you'll be suspended pending investigation. We've lost, Elijah. We haven't lost. We're still here. We're still fighting. That's not losing." "It feels like losing." Dr. Patel returned with test results. The EKG showed electrical irregularities consistent with supraventricular tachycardia, manageable with medication and lifestyle modifications. The blood work was normal. Lily would need follow-up appointments with a pediatric cardiologist, possibly a cardiac ablation procedure if episodes continued, but the prognosis was good. "She'll live a completely normal life," Dr. Patel assured them. "This is scary, but it's treatable. Many children have this condition and manage it successfully." The relief was so overwhelming Elijah had to sit down. Celeste's hand found his shoulder, steadying him. "When can she go home?" he asked. "Tomorrow morning, if everything stays stable through the night. We'll send you home with medications and care instructions. Follow up with cardiology within 2 weeks." When the doctor left, Elijah stood by Lily's bedside, watching her sleep. Her chest rose and fell steadily, heart monitor beeping its reassuring rhythm. She looked so small in the hospital bed, so young and vulnerable. His baby girl, who'd survived losing her mother, who'd learned to be strong because she'd had no choice, who'd welcomed the chaos of new siblings and complicated family dynamics with open arms and fierce love. "She's going to be okay," Celeste said softly beside him. "I know. But for a few hours there, I thought—" His voice broke. "I can't lose her, Celeste. I can't survive losing another person I love." "You won't. She's strong, like her father." They stayed through the night, taking turns dozing in the uncomfortable chairs, waking at every sound from Lily or change in the monitors. Around 3 a.m., when the hospital had gone quiet, except for distant beeping and hushed nurse conversations, Celeste's phone buzzed. She checked it, her face going pale in the dim light. "What is it?" Elijah asked. "Email from the board secretary. Emergency meeting moved up to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Thomas is pushing for an immediate vote on my medical leave." She stared at the screen. "He's not even waiting. He's going for the kill while I'm here, while I'm vulnerable. Then we leave. We go back. We fight this." "No." Celeste set down her phone with finality. "No, I'm staying with Lily. The board can vote however they want. Thomas can have his coup. I'm not leaving your daughter alone in a hospital to save a company. That company is your life's work. And this—" She gestured to the hospital room, to Lily sleeping peacefully, to Elijah himself. "This is my life. My actual life. The one I want to live. Not the one I built to avoid feeling anything real. You'll regret it. When the shock wears off, when you realize what you've given up. I'll regret it more if I leave now. If I choose corporate politics over the people I love." She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "I'm choosing love, Elijah. Finally, completely, even if it costs me everything else." He pulled her close, kissing her with desperate gratitude and terrified hope. Outside the hospital room, the city continued its relentless rhythm. Inside, two people held each other in the wreckage of their carefully built lives, choosing love over power, family over reputation, truth over the comfortable lies that had protected them for so long. Morning came with pale winter light and the bustle of shift changes. Lily woke groggy but smiling, making jokes about the hospital food and asking if she could keep the heart monitor stickers as souvenirs. Dr. Patel cleared her for discharge with strict instructions and follow-up appointments scheduled. Elijah's phone exploded with messages as they prepared to leave. Texts from colleagues, emails from HR, a voicemail from Thomas's assistant requesting his presence at an emergency personnel review, and one message from an unknown number, a news alert. Breaking: Vaughn Industries CEO removed from position amid personal scandal. The article was brutal. Anonymous sources, carefully worded implications, Thomas's statement about protecting company integrity and shareholder value. Celeste's pregnancy mentioned in the third paragraph, Elijah's name in the fourth, both of them reduced to tabloid fodder and corporate cautionary tales. Celeste read it over his shoulder, her face expressionless. "It's done," she said quietly. "They voted without me. Thomas is interim CEO effective immediately. I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I made my choice." She looked at Lily, who was arguing with the nurse about whether she really needed a wheelchair to leave. "And I'd make it again." They left the hospital together, Elijah, Celeste, and Lily, walking out into the cold morning air like refugees from a war they hadn't started but had definitely lost. The question now was whether they could survive what came next. The suspension letter arrived by courier 3 hours after they got Lily home from the hospital. Official company letterhead, legal language, Thomas Reeves's signature, bold and victorious at the bottom. Effective immediately. Pending investigation. Return all company property within 24 hours. Elijah read it twice, standing in his kitchen while Lily napped in her room and Celeste made tea neither of them would drink. The words blurred together, each sentence a carefully constructed nail in the coffin of his career. "They're offering you money," Celeste said, reading over his shoulder. "Severance package, 6 months' salary if you sign a non-disclosure agreement and waive all claims against the company. Blood money. It's a significant amount. Enough to support you and Lily while you find something else. It's hush money, They want me to disappear quietly, to sign away my right to speak the truth about what happened. Elijah set down the letter with deliberate care. I won't do it. Elijah, be practical. You have Lily to think about. Her medical expenses, her future. This money could what? Buy my silence while they destroy both our reputations? Let Thomas get away with using our relationship as a weapon for his corporate coup? He turned to face her fully. No, I won't take their money, and I won't pretend this is acceptable. Then what will you do? Fight them? You'll lose. They have lawyers, resources, the entire weight of corporate infrastructure behind them. One man against a billion-dollar company, those aren't odds anyone can win. Maybe not. But I can tell the truth. I can make sure people know what really happened. Celeste's expression shifted to something like fear. If you go public, they'll destroy you. Thomas will make sure you never work in finance again. He'll paint you as bitter, vindictive, a failed employee trying to extort his former employer. And they'll come after me too. My pregnancy, my judgment, my fitness as a mother, everything will be fair game. They're already doing that. The news article this morning made sure of it. That was controlled. Thomas feeding carefully worded statements to friendly reporters. If you fight back openly, it becomes war. And in war, everyone gets hurt. Elijah studied the woman he loved, seeing the exhaustion etched in every line of her face. She'd lost her company, her position, everything she'd spent 2 decades building, and now he was proposing to drag them both through more public scrutiny, more judgment, more pain. I'm tired of being careful, he said quietly. I'm tired of calculating every move to avoid giving people ammunition. I've spent my entire career being twice as good, working twice as hard, making myself small and palatable and non-threatening. And for what? So Thomas Reeves could use the first excuse he found to destroy everything anyway? I understand your anger. Do you? Because it seems like you're ready to accept this, to take your medical leave, let Thomas have the company, and just disappear into quiet domesticity while they write whatever narrative they want about us. Celeste's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? You chose to stay at the hospital, and I love you for that choice. But now you're asking me to choose silence, to accept humiliation and blacklisting without fighting back. That's not the woman who stared down hostile takeovers. That's not the CEO who built an empire from her father's legacy. That woman just lost everything. That woman sacrificed her company for you and Lily, and now you're asking her to sacrifice even more? Her voice cracked. I have nothing left to fight with, Elijah. No position, no power, no leverage. All I have is this baby, and you, and the desperate hope that maybe, if we're quiet enough, they'll leave us alone to build something small and safe and survivable. The vulnerability in her confession stopped him cold. This wasn't capitulation born of weakness. It was exhaustion born of loss. Celeste had fought her whole life, and she was simply out of weapons. Lily's bedroom door opened. She emerged in pajamas decorated with cartoon hearts, her expression serious beyond her years. I could hear you arguing, she said. You're not good at whispering. Sorry, baby girl. We didn't mean to wake you. I wasn't really sleeping anyway. Too much thinking. Lily padded into the kitchen, pouring herself orange juice with the careful precision of someone conscious of their heart monitor. So they fired you, Dad? Suspended. Pending investigation. Which is just firing with extra steps. She took a sip of juice. And they took Celeste's company. Yes. And now you're fighting about whether to fight back or accept it. Elijah and Celeste exchanged glances. Lily's perception was, as always, unnervingly accurate. Something like that, Elijah admitted. Lily set down her glass, looking between them with those wise, wounded eyes. Can I tell you what I think? Always? I think you're both right, and both wrong. She climbed onto a kitchen stool, folding her hands like a tiny judge. Dad, you're right that you shouldn't just accept being treated unfairly. That's not who you are. You taught me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Exactly. But, Lily continued, cutting him off, Celeste is also right that fighting could hurt all of us more. Not just you and her, but me. And the baby. We're part of this too. The simple truth of it settled over the kitchen like snow. So what do you suggest? Celeste asked gently. I think you should tell the truth. Not to hurt them or get revenge, but just to tell the truth. What really happened, why it happened. Let people decide for themselves what to think. Lily's voice was remarkably steady. Because right now, Mr. Reeves gets to tell his story, and his story makes you both look bad. But if you tell your story, the real one, then at least people have both sides. The real story makes us look reckless, Celeste said. Two professionals who let personal feelings compromise their judgment. No, Lily corrected. The real story is two people who fell in love despite circumstances that made it complicated. Two people who tried to do the right thing, tried to be honest, and got punished for it by someone who saw an opportunity to take power. She looked at Elijah. That's not a story about recklessness, Dad. That's a story about courage. Elijah felt his throat tighten. His 12-year-old daughter, who'd survived cardiac episodes and hospital stays, who'd lost her mother and welcomed new family with equal grace, was teaching him about courage. When did you get so smart? He asked, his voice rough. I keep telling you, excellent role models. Lily smiled, then turned serious again. But whatever you decide, decide together. Don't let this break you apart. That's what Mr. Reeves wants, to divide you so he can conquer you separately. She was right. Of course she was right. Elijah looked at Celeste and saw the same realization dawning. We tell our story, Celeste said slowly. Not through lawyers or carefully crafted PR statements. We tell it ourselves. Honestly. Completely. The board meeting is scheduled for Friday, Elijah said. Emergency session to formalize your medical leave and my termination. What if we showed up, both of us, and told them exactly what happened and why? They won't let me in the building. Thomas has already revoked my access. Then we make them let us in. We contact every board member individually, request the chance to address them directly before they vote. It's your company, Celeste. You built it. They owe you that much. They owe me nothing. I signed contracts, agreed to governance structures that give them this power. Legally, maybe, but morally, you deserve to be heard. Celeste was quiet for a long moment, her hand drifting to her stomach in that unconscious protective gesture. If we do this, if we walk into that boardroom and lay everything bare, there's no going back. Whatever happens after, we live with it, together. Together, Elijah agreed. Together, Lily echoed, raising her orange juice like a toast. They spent the next 3 days preparing. Elijah drafted a statement, rewrote it 17 times, showed it to Celeste, who added her perspective, then Lily, who provided surprisingly astute editorial feedback about emotional resonance and narrative flow. They contacted board members requesting a hearing before the Friday vote. Most ignored the emails. 2 responded with polite deflections. 1. Margaret Chen, the longest-serving board member, and someone who'd known Celeste since childhood, agreed to advocate for them. I can't promise anything, Margaret said when she called Celeste directly. Thomas has the votes, but I can get you 15 minutes before the final decision. Use it well. 15 minutes to save their reputations, their futures, their family. It wasn't enough time, but it was more than they'd had before. Thursday afternoon, Elijah's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Carter? This is Detective Sarah Mendez with the NYPD Financial Crimes Unit. I'd like to speak with you about Vaughn Industries and Thomas Reeves. Elijah's heart stopped. I'm sorry, what? We're investigating potential financial irregularities at Vaughn Industries. Your name came up in connection with the Meridian merger analysis. I was hoping you might be willing to answer some questions. Financial irregularities? What kind of irregularities? I can't discuss details of an ongoing investigation, but if you're willing to meet, I think we might have information that would be of mutual interest. Elijah glanced at Celeste, who'd overheard enough to look concerned. When? Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Police Plaza, downtown. I'll be there? He ended the call, his mind racing. Financial crimes investigation. Meridian merger. Thomas's name specifically mentioned. The pieces were there, scattered and incomplete, but beginning to form a picture. What was that about? Celeste asked. I'm not sure yet, but I think... He pulled up his laptop, accessing files he'd downloaded before surrendering his company computer. The Meridian merger analysis. His original projections flagged concerns, recommended additional due diligence. Then Thomas's revised projections, the ones that had been presented to the board, optimistic numbers that had justified moving forward despite Elijah's warnings. He compared them side by side, line by line, and there it was. Subtle manipulations. Revenue projections inflated by moving decimal points, risk assessments minimized by omitting key data, compliance issues buried in footnotes then deleted entirely in final versions. Thomas hadn't just ignored Elijah's concerns. He'd actively falsified the analysis to push the merger through. He committed fraud, Elijah said, disbelief and fury warring in his chest. Thomas doctored the Meridian projections. That's why the merger failed, not because of my analysis, because of his lies. Celeste leaned over his shoulder, scanning the documents. Her expression went from confusion to shock to cold, calculated rage. If you can prove this, I can. I have the original files, the revision history, everything. Thomas's fingerprints are all over it. Then he didn't just orchestrate a corporate coup. He committed securities fraud, lied to the board, to shareholders, to federal regulators. Celeste's voice was deadly calm. He destroyed both our careers to cover up his own crimes. We need to take this to the detective tomorrow. No. Celeste's eyes glinted with strategic brilliance. We take it to the board meeting, Friday, in front of everyone. Celeste, think about it. Thomas expects us to show up defeated, asking for mercy, trying to salvage what we can. Instead, we walk in with proof that he's a criminal, that everything he's done, the suspension, the medical leave, the character assassination, has been to protect himself, not the company. He'll deny it, claim the files are fabricated. He can deny all he wants, but board members aren't stupid. Margaret Chen certainly isn't. Once we plant the seed of doubt, they'll investigate. And if the police are already looking into him, the timing becomes very interesting. Elijah saw the strategy taking shape, the brilliance of it, the poetic justice. Thomas had weaponized corporate governance to destroy them. They'd weaponized the truth to destroy him. We need to be careful, he cautioned. If we accuse him publicly without absolute proof, we have proof. Your files, revision histories, email trails, it's all documented. Celeste was already pulling up her own archives, cross-referencing. Thomas was sloppy, arrogant. He never thought anyone would look this closely because he never thought anyone would dare challenge him. They worked through the night, building their case with the same meticulous attention to detail that had made them both successful in their careers. Lily brought them coffee and snacks, playing assistant and cheerleader, her presence a reminder of what they were fighting for. Around 2 a.m., Celeste suddenly gasped, her hand flying to her stomach. What's wrong? Elijah was at her side instantly. Nothing. The baby just kicked. For the first time. Wonder transformed her face. Feel. She guided his hand to her abdomen. Beneath his palm, he felt it. A tiny flutter, impossibly small, but undeniably real. Their daughter, making her presence known. Hello, little one, Elijah whispered. We're fighting for you too, making the world a little bit better before you get here. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. I was so scared of this, of being a mother, of loving someone this much before even meeting them. But feeling her move, her voice broke. I'd burn the whole world down to protect her. We won't have to burn anything, just expose one corrupt executive and reclaim our truth. That's practically the same thing. They laughed, exhausted and anxious, and bound together by love and strategy and a fierce determination to protect their growing family. Friday morning arrived too quickly. Elijah dressed in his best suit, the charcoal one he'd worn to his wedding, to Sarah's funeral, to every moment that required armor and authority. Celeste wore steel blue, her hair pulled back, minimal makeup, the picture of composed strength despite the pregnancy that was just beginning to show. Lily hugged them both before they left. You're going to be amazing, she said. Just tell the truth. That's all you have to do. And if the truth isn't enough, Celeste asked, then at least you told it. At least you tried. That matters. The drive to Vaughn Industries felt surreal. Elijah had made this commute hundreds of times, but never like this. Never as an outsider, never with everything on the line. Security initially refused them entry. Their badges had been deactivated, their names flagged. But Margaret Chen came down personally, overriding the guards with quiet authority. "You have 15 minutes, she said as they rode the elevator up. Thomas is furious that I allowed this. The other board members are split, some curious, some hostile, all convinced this is a waste of time. "It won't be," Celeste said. "I hope you're right, because if this goes badly, I can't protect you from the consequences." The boardroom looked exactly as Elijah remembered. Long mahogany table, leather chairs, windows overlooking Manhattan's financial district. 9 board members sat in judgment, their expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. Thomas stood at the head of the table like a king addressing unruly subjects, his shock at seeing them quickly masked by cold fury. "What is this?" he demanded. "This." Margaret, I specifically said, "They're entitled to address the board before any final votes," Margaret interrupted calmly. "Company bylaws are clear on that point. This is irregular. So is orchestrating a CEO's removal while she's dealing with a family medical emergency. I think we can afford 15 minutes of irregularity." Thomas's jaw worked, but he sat. The message was clear. He'd won, they'd lost, and he could afford to be magnanimous in victory by allowing them this futile gesture. Celeste stepped forward, and Elijah saw her transform. This was the CEO he'd watched command boardrooms for 5 years, assured, brilliant, utterly in control. "Thank you for seeing us," she began. "I know many of you believe I've compromised this company through poor judgment and personal recklessness, that my relationship with Elijah Carter represents a failure of leadership and ethics. Thomas has made a compelling case for my removal, and I don't dispute the facts of his argument. Yes, Elijah and I are in a relationship. Yes, I'm pregnant. Yes, this complicates our professional dynamic." She paused, letting the admission settle. Several board members nodded, their suspicions confirmed. But what Thomas hasn't told you, what he's been very careful to conceal, is why he's pushing so aggressively for our removal right now. It's not about protecting the company. It's about protecting himself. Thomas stood abruptly. "This is absurd. I won't sit here and be accused." "Sit down, Thomas," Margaret said quietly. "You gave them 15 minutes. Let them speak." He sat, but his expression promised retribution. Elijah stepped forward, connecting his laptop to the boardroom display. 3 months ago, I submitted my analysis of the Meridian merger. My projections showed significant risks, regulatory issues, market volatility, compliance concerns. I recommended additional due diligence before proceeding. The screen filled with his original report, detailed and conservative. Thomas dismissed my concerns, said I was being overcautious, and then he submitted his own analysis to this board. He clicked to Thomas's version. Side by side, the differences were stark. Look at the revenue projections. Mine, $340 million over 5 years with 15% margin of error. Thomas's, $890 million with 3% margin of error. Look at the risk assessment. Mine, significant regulatory hurdles requiring 6 to 12 months additional vetting. Thomas's, minimal concerns, approval anticipated within 30 days. He clicked through slide after slide, each comparison more damning than the last. Thomas didn't just disagree with my analysis. He falsified his own to push the merger through. He manipulated data, omitted risks, and presented fabricated projections to this board. That's securities fraud. That's why the Meridian deal collapsed. Not because of my analysis, because of his lies. The boardroom had gone absolutely silent. Thomas's face had drained of color. "These are serious accusations," Margaret said carefully. "Do you have proof?" "Complete revision histories. Email trails. Thomas's own edits, time-stamped and documented. Elijah pulled up the metadata, the digital fingerprints that couldn't be faked or explained away. It's all here." "This is fabricated," Thomas said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Carter is bitter about his suspension. He's manufacturing evidence to the NYPD Financial Crimes Unit is already investigating," Elijah interrupted. "Detective Sarah Mendez. She contacted me yesterday asking about the Meridian merger and your role in it. I'm meeting with her this afternoon to provide these files." That was a slight exaggeration. The meeting was scheduled, but he hadn't mentioned the files yet. But the effect was immediate. Thomas went from defensive to panicked, his carefully maintained composure cracking. You have no authority to provide confidential company documents to. I have every authority when those documents expose criminal fraud. Celeste's voice cut like a blade. Thomas, you used my pregnancy and relationship with Elijah as a smokescreen. You orchestrated my removal not to protect the company, but to protect yourself. Once you were interim CEO, you could bury the evidence, blame the Meridian failure on others, and consolidate power before anyone looked too closely at your role. That's insane, is it? Because from where I'm standing, everything you've done in the past week makes perfect sense if your goal was self-preservation. The rushed board meeting, the medical leave, Elijah's suspension, all of it designed to remove the two people who might expose what you'd done. Margaret was already on her phone, speaking quietly to someone. Other board members were leaning forward, studying the evidence on screen with growing alarm. The Meridian failure cost shareholders $340 million, Celeste continued. We have fiduciary responsibility to investigate how that happened. And if this evidence is accurate, if Thomas committed fraud, then we have legal obligation to report it. You can't prove intent, Thomas said desperately. Projection differences aren't crimes, they're judgment calls. Falsifying data is a crime. Lying to the board is a crime. Securities fraud is a federal offense. Elijah's voice was steady, implacable. And we have more than enough evidence to prompt a full investigation. The boardroom door opened. Two men in dark suits entered, badges visible on their belts. Detective Mendez, apparently, hadn't waited for their afternoon meeting. Thomas Reeves, the lead detective said. I'm Detective Chen, NYPD Financial Crimes. We have a warrant to seize company records related to the Meridian merger. We'd also like you to come with us to answer some questions. This is harassment, Thomas sputtered. I'm the CEO of this company. Interim CEO, Margaret corrected quietly. And as of this moment, suspended pending investigation. She looked at the other board members, all of whom nodded in agreement. We'll need to conduct a complete audit of the Meridian deal and any other transactions Thomas oversaw. You can't do this, Thomas said, but he was already beaten. The detectives were reading him his rights, and the board members were already discussing emergency protocols, succession plans, damage control. Celeste watched it unfold with calm satisfaction. Actually, we can, and we are. You're done, Thomas. They let him out in handcuffs, his protests fading down the hallway. The boardroom remained in shocked silence until Margaret finally spoke. Celeste, I think we owe you an apology. You owe me my company back. Margaret smiled slightly. Motion to reinstate Celeste Vaughn as CEO, effective immediately? The vote was unanimous. Elijah felt the weight of the past week lift from his shoulders. Not completely. There would be investigations, media attention, complicated legal processes ahead. But the immediate threat was neutralized. Thomas was exposed. The truth was out. And Elijah's suspension? Celeste asked. Rescinded, with an apology and full back pay. Margaret looked at him directly. We should have investigated his concerns about Meridian more thoroughly. We failed in our oversight, and you paid the price. I'm sorry. Thank you. The board meeting continued for another hour, addressing procedural issues and future safeguards. Elijah and Celeste sat together, fingers intertwined under the table, a united front that had survived corporate warfare and emerged intact. When they finally left the building, stepping out into cool autumn air, Celeste sagged against Elijah, exhaustion and relief and triumph warring on her face. We did it, she said wonderingly. We actually did it. You did it. That was all you in there. Pure strategic brilliance. It was us, together. She kissed him, soft and grateful and full of promise. I love you. I love you too. His phone buzzed. Text from Lily. Did you win? Elijah typed back, we won. Coming home soon. 3 dots, then, I knew it. I'm making victory brownies. He showed Celeste the message. She laughed, the sound bright and unburdened. Victory brownies. I like that tradition. Lily has excellent traditions. They drove home together, the city streaming past in familiar patterns. At a red light, Celeste gasped again, hand to her stomach. The baby? Elijah asked. She's celebrating too. Very active today. Celeste guided his hand to where their daughter was kicking up a storm. I think she knows we're safe now, that we fought for her and won. We'll always fight for her, for both our girls. Both our girls, Celeste repeated softly. Our family. The light changed. They drove home to where Lily waited with brownies and victory hugs, to a future that was finally, impossibly, beginning to look like something they could all survive and maybe even thrive in together. The truth had cost them everything, but it had also given them something infinitely more valuable: the freedom to love openly, to build their family honestly, to live without the constant weight of secrets and shame. That night, after brownies and celebration, and Lily's enthusiastic play-by-play of how she'd known they'd win, Elijah stood in his kitchen with Celeste wrapped in his arms, both of them watching Lily argue with Mr. Bear about proper victory etiquette. "I think we're going to be okay," Celeste whispered. "I think you're right. The baby needs a name. We should start thinking about it. Lily wants something strong, Maya or Rosa or Zora. Those are beautiful." Celeste paused. "What about Sarah, after your wife?" Elijah's breath caught. "You do that? She gave you Lily. She made you the father you are. Honoring her feels right." "Sarah Rose," Elijah said, "after both the women who taught me how to love. Sarah Rose Carter Vaughn, our daughter. Their daughter." The words settled into place like the final piece of a puzzle, making whole what had been fractured, creating family from love and courage and the fierce determination to choose each other every single day. Outside, the city hummed its endless song. Inside, a family prepared for the future they'd fought so hard to claim. The weeks that followed Thomas's arrest moved with the strange dual rhythm of waiting and building. Legal proceedings crawled forward with bureaucratic slowness while life itself accelerated. Celeste's pregnancy progressing, Lily's cardiology appointments, the delicate work of reconstructing careers and reputations from the wreckage Thomas had left behind. Elijah returned to Vaughn Industries to a hero's welcome he didn't quite know how to accept. Colleagues who'd avoided him during the suspension now congratulated him on his courage. The analytics team threw an impromptu celebration in the break room, complete with a cake that read "Truth Wins" in blue frosting. It was kind and overwhelming and deeply uncomfortable all at once. "They mean well," Margaret Chen said, finding him hiding in his office after the second hour of well-wishers. "Even if they're going about it awkwardly. I appreciate that, I do. But I didn't expose Thomas to be celebrated. I did it because it was right. Which is exactly why you deserve the celebration." Margaret sat in the chair across from his desk, the same seat Celeste had occupied countless times during late-night strategy sessions. "The board wants to offer you a promotion, VP of Financial Analysis. Thomas's old position, actually, though we're restructuring the role significantly." Elijah's first instinct was refusal. Taking Thomas's job felt like profiting from the man's downfall, like accepting a prize he hadn't sought. But before he could speak, Margaret continued, "Before you say no, consider what the promotion actually means. It's not about replacing Thomas. It's about acknowledging that you've been doing work above your pay grade for years. You earned this position long before any of this drama happened. The board is simply correcting an oversight. People will say I got promoted because of Celeste. People will say whatever serves their narrative. You can't control that. What you can control is doing the work with integrity and proving every single day that you deserve to be in that room." Margaret's smile was knowing. "Besides, you'll need the salary increase. Babies are expensive, or so I'm told." The casual reference to the pregnancy, spoken without judgment or innuendo, made something tight in Elijah's chest loosen. "I'll think about it," he said. "Don't think too long. The offer expires Friday." She left him alone with the decision, with the weight of opportunity that felt both earned and impossibly complicated. That evening, he found Celeste in her home office, surrounded by papers and looking exhausted. She'd moved back into the CEO role with characteristic intensity, working 12-hour days despite doctors' orders to reduce stress. The pregnancy was showing now, her body changing in ways that seemed to both fascinate and frustrate her. "You're supposed to be resting," Elijah said from the doorway. "I'm sitting. That counts as resting." "I don't think that's what Dr. Morrison meant." Celeste set down her pen, rubbing her eyes. "The board wants a complete overhaul of our compliance systems. New protocols, additional oversight, third-party audits. It's necessary, but it's also exhausting. Every change requires committee approval and legal review. She stopped. Sorry, you didn't come here to listen to me complain about corporate bureaucracy. I came to ask your opinion about something. He told her about Margaret's offer, about the VP position, and his conflicted feelings about accepting it. Celeste listened without interruption, her expression thoughtful. When he finished, she said, "Do you want the job?" That's not the relevant question. It's the only relevant question. Do you want it? Elijah considered. Yes, I want the challenge, the responsibility, the opportunity to rebuild that department with integrity. I want to make sure what Thomas did never happens again. Then take it. People will talk. People are already talking. They'll talk whether you take the promotion or turn it down. The only difference is whether you're doing work you love while they gossip, or doing work beneath your capabilities while they gossip. She stood, moving around the desk to take his hands. You've spent your entire career worrying about optics, about giving people ammunition, and it's exhausting you, Elijah. It's exhausting both of us. What if we just stopped? What if we made decisions based on what's right for our family instead of what's palatable for other people's comfort? That's easy to say when you're the CEO. Is it? Because I just spent 3 weeks getting interrogated by board members about whether my pregnancy affects my decision-making capabilities. I had to sit through a presentation about managing hormonal influences on executive judgment, like I'm some hysteric Victorian woman who needs to be managed. Her voice sharpened with anger. They don't do that to male executives. They don't question whether testosterone affects negotiations or whether middle-aged men with young mistresses can still run companies effectively. It's just me. Just us. The people who dare to be complicated and human and messy. What did you tell them? That my judgment is exactly as sharp as it's always been. That carrying a child doesn't make me less competent. And that if they have concerns about my leadership, they can vote me out again and see how well the company does under their next interim CEO. She smiled grimly. They backed down fast after that. You're extraordinary. I'm tired and angry and so done with playing by rules designed to keep us in our place. She pressed his hand against her stomach, where their daughter was performing her evening acrobatics. Take the promotion. Do the work. Show them all that we're not going to shrink or apologize or disappear just because our existence makes them uncomfortable. Elijah felt his daughter kick against his palm, strong, insistent, alive. A reminder of what they were building, what they were fighting for. Okay, he said. I'll take it. Good. Now can you please convince Lily to stop researching congenital heart conditions on the internet? She's convinced herself she's going to need open heart surgery and has started making elaborate medical plans. She's reading medical journals? Annotating them, with highlighters. It's both impressive and terrifying. Elijah laughed despite himself. I'll talk to her. He found Lily in her room, exactly as Celeste had described, surrounded by printouts from medical websites and a notebook filled with questions for her cardiologist. Hey, baby girl, what you working on? Research. Did you know that SVT can sometimes lead to atrial fibrillation if left untreated? And that prolonged tachycardia can cause cardiomyopathy? She looked up, her eyes wide with worry poorly disguised as academic interest. My follow-up appointment is next week. I made a list of questions to ask Dr. Patterson. Elijah sat on her bed, pulling her close. You're scared. I'm informed. That's different. Lily. She slumped against him, the bravado cracking. What if it happens again? What if next time it's worse? What if I'm alone somewhere and my heart just stops? Dr. Patterson said the medication is working. Your heart rate has been stable for 3 weeks. But what if it's not enough? What if I need surgery? What if... Her voice broke. What if I end up like Mom? There it was. The fear beneath the research, the real terror driving her obsessive studying. Not just worry about her own health, but the bone-deep anxiety that she'd follow her mother into an early grave, leaving Elijah alone again. Listen to me, Elijah said gently, tilting her face up to meet his eyes. Your heart condition is nothing like your mother's cancer. Nothing. SVT is manageable, treatable, and the vast majority of kids with it live completely normal lives. Dr. Patterson told us that, remember? But she also said, I might need ablation surgery eventually. Might. And if you do, it's a routine procedure that fixes the problem permanently. It's not, he paused, choosing his words carefully. It's not terminal. It's not progressive. It's an electrical issue in your heart that medicine can control and surgery can cure if needed. That's completely different from what happened to your mom. Lily was quiet for a long moment, her brilliant mind processing, comparing data points, searching for reassurance in facts. Probability-wise, what are my chances? She asked finally. Of what? Of living to adulthood. Of being okay. 99% or higher, maybe 99.9% with proper treatment. That's pretty good odds. That's excellent odds. She nodded slowly, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Okay, but I'm still asking Dr. Patterson all my questions. I wouldn't expect anything less. He kissed the top of her head. You know what helps with anxiety? Not spending hours on medical websites catastrophizing worst-case scenarios. I prefer to call it being prepared. I prefer to call it making yourself sick with worry. How about we find some balance? You can ask your questions at the appointment, but between now and then, no more medical research. Deal? What am I supposed to do instead? I don't know. Normal 12-year-old things? Watch movies? Talk to friends? Help me pick out baby furniture for your sister? Lily perked up at that. Can we really? I've been looking at cribs online. There's this one that converts into a toddler bed and then a full bed so it grows with her and it's sustainable wood. And see, this is the kind of research I can support. They spent the next hour looking at baby furniture, Lily enthusiastically advocating for various sustainable, educational, aesthetically pleasing options, while Elijah tried to figure out how to fit a nursery into their two-bedroom condo. The conversation was normal, easy, the kind of father-daughter dynamic they'd perfected over years of it being just the two of them. Except now it wasn't just the two of them, and that was going to require some adjustments. Dad? Lily asked as he was leaving her room. When the baby comes, are we going to move? Into Celeste's place or something bigger? I don't know yet. We haven't talked about it. But you're going to get married, right? Like officially? The question shouldn't have surprised him, but it did. Would you want that? Obviously, you love her. She loves you. You're having a baby together. Marriage seems like the logical next step. Lily's tone suggested this was self-evident. Plus, I think it would be nice, having an actual family again. Not that we're not a family now, but you know what I mean. I do know what you mean, Elijah smiled. And yes, I think marriage is probably in our future, but we're taking things one step at a time. You should propose soon, before she gets too pregnant to fit into a wedding dress. That's very romantic advice, thank you. I'm practical. It's one of my best qualities. Elijah laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in weeks. His daughter was going to be fine, medically, emotionally, all the ways that mattered. And he was going to be fine too. They all were. The following week brought Lily's cardiology appointment and Elijah's first day as VP of Financial Analysis. Both went better than expected. Dr. Patterson confirmed that the medication was working perfectly, Lily's heart rhythms were stable, and surgery was unlikely to be necessary. Lily asked all 17 of her prepared questions, took detailed notes, and left satisfied that she had complete understanding of her condition and treatment plan. Elijah's first executive team meeting was more awkward. He was now sitting at the table with people who'd been his superiors for years, making decisions at a level he'd only observed from outside. Some of the other VPs welcomed him warmly. Others maintained careful professional distance, clearly uncertain how to interact with someone whose relationship with the CEO was public knowledge. Celeste handled it with characteristic directness. When the meeting started and one of the VPs made a passive-aggressive comment about interpersonal dynamics affecting professional judgment, she shut it down immediately. Elijah earned his position through merit and performance. If anyone has questions about his qualifications, review his track record. If anyone has concerns about his relationship with me affecting his work, note that he was the one who exposed fraudulent activity while everyone else in this room missed it. He's proven his integrity repeatedly. Now, can we move on to actual business? The room went silent. No one questioned Elijah's presence again. After the meeting, Margaret pulled him aside. You're going to face that periodically. People testing boundaries, seeing if they can use your relationship as leverage or weakness. I know. The best response is exactly what you've been doing. Excellent work. Unimpeachable ethics. Make it impossible for anyone to claim you don't deserve to be here. She paused. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be excellent in this role. The department needs someone who actually cares about accuracy over politics. Thank you. That means a lot. The praise would have felt hollow weeks ago, tainted by suspicion that it was about Celeste rather than his capabilities. But he was learning, slowly, to accept that maybe people could see his worth independent of who he loved, that maybe his achievements could stand on their own. November slid into December with the strange acceleration of approaching deadlines. Celeste's due date was set for early January, and suddenly there were 1,000 things to prepare. Nursery furniture to assemble, hospital bags to pack, birth plans to discuss and revise and discuss again. Lily threw herself into preparation with her characteristic intensity. She read books on infant care, practiced diaper changes on her stuffed animals, and created elaborate spreadsheets of feeding schedules and developmental milestones. It was endearing and slightly overwhelming all at once. She's going to be the most prepared 12-year-old sibling in history, Celeste observed one evening, watching Lily quiz Elijah on the proper technique for supporting a newborn's head. She doesn't do anything halfway. I've noticed. Celeste shifted uncomfortably, her hand on her lower back. The pregnancy was becoming physically demanding, her body working overtime to create and sustain their daughter. I had a thought about living arrangements. Yeah? My penthouse is bigger. 2 bedrooms currently, but there's a study that could convert to a nursery. And the building has excellent security, doorman, all the amenities. She hesitated. It makes sense logistically, but I don't want to assume. This is your and Lily's home. I'm not trying to push you out of it. Elijah looked around the condo he'd shared with Lily since Sarah died. It held memories, good ones and painful ones, woven into every corner. But it was also small, outdated, and rapidly becoming inadequate for a family of 4. What does Lily think? He asked. I haven't asked her. I wanted to talk to you first. Let me discuss it with her. But Celeste, wherever we end up living, it needs to feel like home for all of us, not just your space that we're occupying. Agreed. We'll make it ours. Together. The conversation with Lily happened that weekend over breakfast. Elijah laid out the options. Stay in the condo and try to make it work, move to Celeste's place, or look for something new that could be a fresh start for their blended family. Lily considered while demolishing a stack of pancakes. Celeste's building has a pool, she said finally, and a gym, and it's closer to my school. Those are practical considerations. Plus, I think it would be good for us to be in her space, make her feel like we're really choosing her, not just accepting her into our existing life. Lily's emotional intelligence was, as always, startlingly mature. She's scared of not being enough, of us resenting her for changing everything. If we move into her place and make it ours, that shows we're all in. When did you get so wise about relationships? I pay attention. It's a gift. She grinned. So yeah, I vote for Celeste's place. But I want my own room, and I get to help decorate the nursery, and we need to bring Mr. Bear because he's family too. All reasonable demands. I'm very reasonable. They told Celeste that evening. Her relief was palpable, though she tried to hide it behind practical discussion of moving logistics and timeline. But Elijah saw the way her shoulders relaxed, the way tears threatened at the corners of her eyes when Lily enthusiastically started planning how to arrange furniture. You're sure? Celeste asked him later when Lily had gone to bed and they were alone. This is a big change. I don't want you to feel like I'm erasing your life with Sarah. You're not erasing anything. You're adding to it, building something new that honors what came before while making space for what's coming. He pulled her close, careful of her swollen belly. Besides, Lily's right. Moving to your place shows we're choosing this. Choosing you. All of you, not just the convenient parts. I love you, both of you. So much it terrifies me. Good. Terror means it matters. The move happened over Christmas break. A chaotic week of boxes and furniture and Lily's running commentary on optimal organization strategies. Celeste's penthouse transformed gradually from sleek corporate showcase to actual home. Lily's colorful artwork on the walls, family photos on the mantle, Mr. Bear claiming his spot on the living room couch. The nursery came together in soft yellows and grays, gender neutral, despite knowing they were having a girl, because Celeste insisted she didn't want to impose stereotypes before their daughter could even form opinions. Lily approved this reasoning and contributed her own touches: a mobile made of origami cranes she'd folded herself, a bookshelf already loaded with classics and contemporary children's literature, a rocking chair positioned to catch the morning light. "It's perfect," Celeste said, standing in the doorway on Christmas Eve, her hand on her enormous belly. "Our daughter is so lucky." "We're the lucky ones," Elijah corrected. "All of us." That night, with Lily asleep in her new room and their daughter doing gymnastics in Celeste's womb, Elijah made his move. They were sitting on the couch, wrapped in blankets, watching snow fall over Manhattan, through floor-to-ceiling windows. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Celeste's eyes widened. "Elijah!" "Before you panic, just listen. I know this is fast. I know we're already dealing with enough life changes without adding more. But Lily's right. Marriage is the logical next step, and more than logical, it's what I want. I want you to be my wife. I want to wake up every morning knowing we've made that commitment to each other publicly, legally, permanently." He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond. "So, Celeste Vaughn, will you marry me?" Celeste was crying before he finished the question, nodding through tears and laughter and joy that made her incandescent. "Yes. Yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her with all the love and promise and fierce determination that had carried them through corporate warfare and personal crisis to this moment of choosing, again and always, each other. "Should we tell Lily tonight?" Celeste asked, admiring the ring. "She'll be furious if we wait until morning. She takes her role as family stakeholder very seriously." They woke Lily, who emerged from her room bleary-eyed and confused, until she saw the ring and Celeste's face and Elijah's grin. Then she screamed with delight, launching herself at both of them with enough force to nearly knock them over. "I knew it! I knew you were going to propose during the holidays." She examined the ring with expert appreciation. "This is beautiful, Dad. Simple, but elegant. Very tasteful." "Thank you for your approval." "When's the wedding? Please tell me we're not doing one of those long engagements. You should get married before the baby comes so she's born into a married household." "Lily, we have time to plan." "No, we don't. The baby could come any day. You need to do this fast. City Hall wedding. Simple, legal, done." Celeste laughed. "You've given this a lot of thought." "Obviously, I'm very invested in this family's success." Lily looked between them seriously. "I know it's fast. I know people will have opinions. But you love each other, you're having a baby together, and every day you're not married is a day wasted. Life's too short to wait for perfect timing." The wisdom from a 12-year-old who'd learned too young that life was fragile and precious left both adults speechless. "You make a compelling argument," Elijah said finally. "I always do." They discussed it into the early morning hours, weighing options and implications. The conclusion was inescapable. Lily was right. They could plan an elaborate ceremony later, something celebratory to mark the occasion publicly. But the legal commitment, the actual marriage, that could and should happen soon. City Hall, 3 days after Christmas. Just the three of them, Elijah, Celeste, and Lily, standing before a justice of the peace in a simple ceremony that lasted 15 minutes and changed everything. Celeste wore a cream dress that accommodated her pregnancy. Elijah wore his wedding suit, the same one from his marriage to Sarah, because Lily had pointed out that Sarah would want him to honor the past while embracing the future. Lily served as witness, beaming with pride and taking approximately 300 photos on her phone. When the justice pronounced them married, when Elijah kissed his wife, his second chance at forever, Lily cheered loudly enough to echo through the municipal building. "We're family now," she said when they emerged into cold December sunlight. "Like, officially, legally family." "We've been family for a while," Celeste said gently. "I know, but now it's on paper." Which makes it real in a different way. Lily hugged them both. "I'm really happy, you guys, like scary happy. The kind of happy that makes you realize how sad you were before." They celebrated with lunch at Lily's favorite restaurant, then walked through Central Park despite the cold, Lily running ahead while Elijah and Celeste followed at a more sedate pace, appropriate for a woman 9 months pregnant. "This is good," Celeste said, watching Lily attempt to make a snowball. All of this. I didn't think I could have this. What changed? I did. You changed me. Showed me that control isn't the same as safety, that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that love is worth the risk of loss. She stopped walking, turning to face him fully. I spent my whole life building walls to protect myself from feeling anything real. And then you crashed through every single one of them and showed me what I'd been missing. Thank you for that, for refusing to let me hide. Thank you for letting me in, for choosing to trust me even when everything in your experience said not to. They kissed there in the snow, new husband and wife, building family from courage and honesty and love that refused to be contained by fear. That night, Celeste woke Elijah at 2 a.m., her face tight with pain. Contractions, she gasped. Real ones, 5 minutes apart. The hospital bag was already packed, Lily already awake and dressed before Elijah even finished processing what was happening. They drove through empty Manhattan streets, Celeste breathing through contractions with the same focused intensity she brought to board meetings, Lily timing them on her phone and providing running commentary on dilation and effacement statistics she'd memorized from her research. Mount Sinai's maternity ward was hushed and efficient. They got Celeste settled in a birthing room, monitors hooked up, IV started. The contractions intensified rapidly, her labor progressing faster than expected for a first-time mother. It's like she knows we're ready for her, Elijah said, holding Celeste's hand through another contraction. Our daughter has excellent timing. Our daughter is trying to split me in half, Celeste panted. But yes, excellent timing. Lily stayed for the early labor, fascinated by the medical equipment and asking the nurses detailed questions about the physiological process of childbirth. But when things got intense, when Celeste's pain became something raw and primal, Elijah gently suggested that Lily wait in the family lounge. Are you sure? Lily asked, torn between curiosity and concern. I'm sure. This is something Celeste and I need to do together, but we'll call you the moment your sister arrives. Okay, tell Celeste she's doing amazing and that I'm proud of her. The message made Celeste cry, which made her laugh because she was crying from pain anyway, and adding emotional tears seemed redundant. Lily hugged them both and left, and Elijah settled in for the marathon of supporting his wife through bringing their daughter into the world. Labor lasted 8 hours. 8 hours of Celeste alternating between controlled breathing and creative profanity, of Elijah providing ice chips and encouragement and quiet reminders that she was the strongest person he'd ever known. 8 hours of waiting and working and the strange, timeless focus that came with helping create life. And then, at 10:47 a.m. on December 28th, Sarah rose. Carter Vaughn entered the world screaming her displeasure at the cold and bright and overwhelming newness of existence. She was perfect, impossibly tiny, wrinkled and red, and absolutely perfect. The nurses placed her on Celeste's chest, skin to skin, and Elijah watched his wife transform. All the fear and uncertainty and doubt that had plagued Celeste's pregnancy vanished the moment she held their daughter. She looked down at Sarah Rose with such fierce, protective, overwhelming love that Elijah had to look away before he started crying. She's here, Celeste whispered wonderingly. Our baby is here. She's beautiful. You're both beautiful. Can we get Lily? I want her to meet her sister. Elijah called Lily, who arrived at a run, bursting into the room with characteristic energy that immediately dimmed to awed quiet when she saw the baby. Oh, she breathed. Oh, she's so small. Want to hold her? Celeste asked. Lily nodded, and Celeste carefully transferred Sarah Rose into her big sister's arms. Elijah's heart nearly stopped at the sight. His 2 daughters, 12 years apart, connected by love and family and the strange, beautiful chaos of their blended lives. Hi, Sarah, Lily whispered. I'm your sister. I'm going to teach you everything, how to read and do math and stand up to bullies and choose kindness even when it's hard. I'm going to protect you and love you and make sure you know how extraordinary you are. She looked up at Elijah and Celeste, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, for her, for all of this, for making our family bigger and better and more full of love than I ever thought it could be again. Elijah couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. Celeste reached for his hand, squeezing tight, and together they watched their daughters, the one who'd survived loss and learned resilience, the one just beginning her journey, and felt the future taking shape around them. The next few days blurred together in the exhausting joy of new parenthood. Sleepless nights and endless feedings, and the overwhelming responsibility of keeping a tiny human alive. Celeste approached motherhood the way she approached everything, with intense focus and determination to excel, but softened by a tenderness Elijah had never seen in her before. She sang to Sarah Rose in soft, off-key lullabies. She cried at random moments, overcome by love and hormones, and the surreal reality that she'd created this perfect small person. Lily was an exceptional big sister, patient and gentle and endlessly helpful. She changed diapers without complaint, mastered the art of the baby burrito swaddle, and read to Sarah Rose for hours despite the baby having no comprehension of the stories. It was beautiful and exhausting and occasionally overwhelming, but it was theirs. 2 weeks after Sarah Rose's birth, the final pieces of their new life fell into place. Thomas Reeves was formally indicted on multiple counts of securities fraud and corporate malfeasance. The evidence Elijah had provided, combined with the NYPD's investigation, had built an airtight case. Thomas pleaded guilty to avoid trial, accepting a plea deal that included prison time, massive fines, and permanent barring from holding executive positions at any publicly traded company. "It's over," Celeste said when the news broke. "He's actually facing consequences." "Justice isn't always swift, but it eventually comes," Elijah said. "Sometimes." "We made it come." We refused to be silenced. The media coverage was intense but brief. A few days of headlines about corporate fraud and unlikely heroes, and then the news cycle moved on to newer scandals. Which was fine with Elijah and Celeste. They'd never wanted publicity, they just wanted truth. Vaughn Industries weathered the scandal better than expected. The board's swift action in removing Thomas and reinstating Celeste demonstrated responsible governance. Stock prices stabilized. Client confidence recovered. The company emerged stronger, if humbled, from the crisis. Elijah's reputation in the industry transformed from promising analyst to the man who'd exposed one of the year's biggest corporate frauds. Job offers flooded in from competitor firms, prestigious positions with impressive salaries. He turned them all down. He'd found where he belonged, at Vaughn Industries, working alongside people he respected, building something meaningful. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and warming temperatures, and Sarah Rose hitting her 3-month milestone. She was growing rapidly, developing personality and preferences, her serious dark eyes studying the world with intense focus. She looked like both her parents, Celeste's delicate features, Elijah's complexion, a perfect blend that announced their mixed heritage to anyone paying attention, which plenty of people were. The family got stares sometimes when they were out together. The white mother, black father, mixed-race baby, and Lily, who called Celeste Mom, without hesitation despite no biological connection. It wasn't malicious usually, just curiosity about a family that didn't fit neat categories. Lily had a stock response ready. "We're a love-built family," she'd say with the confidence of someone utterly secure in her belonging. Not all families look the same, and that's what makes them beautiful. She'd practiced the line dozens of times, determined to have an answer ready for any challenge to their family's legitimacy. That she'd needed to prepare such defenses at 12 years old was heartbreaking. That she delivered this with pride rather than defensiveness was testament to the resilience she'd built. One Saturday in April, with Sarah Rose napping and Lily at a friend's house, Elijah and Celeste found themselves alone for the first time in months. They sat on their balcony, watching the city stretch endlessly in all directions, Sarah's baby monitor crackling with her soft sleep sounds. "I've been thinking," Celeste said, "about the future, about what we want this to look like long term." "Okay, what are you thinking?" "I want more children, maybe 2 more. I want Sarah Rose to have siblings close in age, not just Lily, who's 12 years older." She looked at him carefully. Is that something you'd want?" Elijah considered. He'd never imagined having more than 2 children total. But then he'd never imagined most of what his life had become. Remarriage, blended family, the overwhelming joy of watching Celeste become a mother. "I think I'd like that," he said, "building this family bigger, giving Sarah Rose what Lily wanted for so long, siblings to grow up with. It'll be chaos. More chaos than we already have. I'm beginning to think chaos is just what family looks like. The good kind of chaos. Celeste laughed, the sound lighter than he'd ever heard it. The good kind of chaos. I like that. They talked about timing, logistics, all the practical considerations of expanding their family. But underneath the practicality was simple desire to create more love, more connection, more of this beautiful, complicated thing they'd built from honesty and courage and choosing each other daily. Sarah Rose woke from her nap with imperious demands for food and attention. Elijah brought her to the balcony, and she immediately stopped fussing, fascinated by the breeze and sunlight and her mother's face. "She's going to be extraordinary," Celeste said, running a gentle finger down Sarah Rose's cheek. "Both our girls will be. They'll change the world." "They already have. They've changed our world completely." Lily came home full of stories about her friend's new puppy and renewed pleas for a dog of their own. Sarah Rose spit up on Elijah's shoulder, then smiled like she'd accomplished something remarkable. Celeste fielded work calls while simultaneously rocking the baby, multitasking with the efficiency that had made her a legendary CEO. It was ordinary, beautifully, perfectly ordinary. The kind of ordinary Elijah had thought he'd lost forever when Sarah died. The kind Celeste had never thought she'd have. The kind Lily had been brave enough to believe in when both adults had been too scared. That night, after both girls were asleep and the penthouse had quieted, Elijah found the old photo album from his marriage to Sarah. He hadn't looked at it in months, afraid that his new happiness would feel like betrayal of his old life. But when he opened it, studying pictures of Sarah's bright smile and their younger selves full of hope and plans, he didn't feel guilty. He felt grateful. Grateful for the 10 years they'd had, for the daughter they'd raised together, for the love that had taught him how to love again. "She'd like you," he said to Celeste, who joined him on the couch. "Sarah, she'd like who you are and how you love our girls. She'd probably tease me about taking so long to move on, and then she'd welcome you into the family with so much warmth you wouldn't know what to do with it. I wish I could have known her." "Me too. But in some ways you do know her. She's in Lily. Her kindness, her wisdom, her fierce love. Every good thing about our daughter came from Sarah teaching her how to be strong and gentle at the same time." He closed the album carefully. "I used to think loving you meant forgetting her, but it doesn't. It means honoring what she gave me by building something new, something she'd be proud of. I think she'd be very proud of you, of Lily, of the family you've created from loss and love. We created. You're part of this story now, the most important part." Celeste kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise for all the ordinary, beautiful days ahead. 6 months later, on a warm October afternoon, they gathered in Central Park for a small ceremony that was part wedding celebration, part family commitment, part public claim to the love they'd fought so hard to protect. The original City Hall wedding had been legal and binding, but this was different. This was sharing their joy with the world, refusing to hide or minimize or apologize for the beautiful, complicated thing they'd built. Margaret Chen officiated because she'd been there from the beginning and understood what this family represented. Lily stood as maid of honor, holding Sarah Rose, who babbled happily through the entire ceremony, perfectly content to be the center of attention. Friends from work attended, colleagues who'd become genuine supporters. Elijah's mother flew up from Florida, crying happy tears and declaring Celeste the daughter she'd always wanted. The vows they exchanged were simple. Promises to choose each other daily, to build their family with honesty and courage, to face whatever challenges came with the strength they'd developed through crisis and triumph. "I love you," Elijah said, looking into Celeste's eyes while their daughters watched. "I love the family we've built and the future we're creating. I love your strength and your vulnerability, your brilliance and your fear, everything that makes you who you are. I choose you, today and always." "I love you," Celeste responded, her voice steady despite tears. "You taught me that love isn't weakness, that family isn't confinement, that opening my heart doesn't make me less powerful. It makes me more human, more whole. I choose you and our daughters and this beautiful, messy, extraordinary life we're building together." They kissed while Lily cheered and Sarah Rose clapped her tiny hands, and their gathered friends celebrated love that had survived corporate warfare and personal crisis and emerged stronger for the surviving. Later, at the small reception in a restaurant overlooking the park, Lily gave a toast that had every adult reaching for tissues. "When my mom died, I thought our family was over," she said, standing with the poise of someone far older than 13. "I thought it would just be me and Dad forever, and we'd both be a little bit broken and sad underneath whatever happiness we managed to find. But then Celeste happened, and Sarah Rose happened, and I learned that family isn't something that ends when someone dies. It's something that grows and changes and expands to include new people and new love." She raised her glass. "To my dad, who taught me that loving again doesn't mean forgetting what came before. To Celeste, who proved that strong women can be soft and loving without losing their strength. And to Sarah Rose, who doesn't know it yet, but she's already made all our lives infinitely better just by existing. To family, the one we're born into and the one we choose to build." The toast received thunderous applause. Celeste pulled Lily into a fierce hug, whispering something in her ear that made Lily's eyes well up. Elijah held Sarah Rose close, watching his family celebrate their love, and felt something settle deep in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the quiet certainty that they'd made it through the hardest part and come out whole on the other side. The evening ended with dancing under strung lights, Lily twirling Sarah Rose carefully, while Elijah and Celeste swayed together to music and happiness and the promise of all the ordinary, extraordinary days ahead. Years would pass, challenges would come. There would be difficult board meetings and health scares, and the normal chaos of raising children in a complicated world. They'd add 2 more children to their family, a son and another daughter, expanding their home and their hearts with each addition. Lily would go to college, brilliant and fierce, and carrying forward the lessons of love and resilience she'd learned from loss and healing. Sarah Rose would grow into a thoughtful, creative child who asked impossible questions and demanded honest answers to all of them. But this moment, this celebration of choosing love over fear, truth over convenience, family over everything else, this moment would remain the foundation. The proof that sometimes the most unexpected consequences become the greatest blessings. That love doesn't follow convenient timelines or respect professional boundaries. That families can be built from honesty and courage and the fierce determination to show up, tell the truth, and choose each other daily even when the world makes it difficult. Elijah Carter had spent his career being careful, calculating every move to avoid giving people ammunition. He'd built his life on control and respectability and the exhausting work of being twice as good to be considered half as worthy. And then Celeste Vaughn had shattered all of it. His control, his carefully maintained boundaries, his fear of wanting more than the safe, small life he'd built from grief and survival. She'd given him chaos and love, and a family that didn't fit neat categories but worked beautifully anyway. And standing there on their wedding celebration, watching Lily dance with Sarah Rose while Celeste laughed at something Margaret said, Elijah realized that maybe he'd been preparing for this his whole life. Every loss, every challenge, every moment of choosing courage over comfort had led him here, to this family, this love, this beautiful, messy, extraordinary life that was more than he'd ever dared to hope for. The unexpected consequence of one night of vulnerability had become the foundation of everything that mattered, and he wouldn't change a single moment of it.